Just because a person kisses you doesn't mean they love you. December the 20th said, you are your pet's pet. Someone's asked for the 24th. Thank you very much. Munaza, thank you. It says here, December the 24th. It's always the next person who is wrong, not you. It's always the next person who is wrong, not you. December 25th. Don't complain, change it. Don't complain, change it. That is December 25th. November the 24th says, all people are just that, people. All people are just that, people. November the 29th, time is an ever-present reality that knows no past or future. Time is an ever-present reality that knows no past or future. That was November the 29th. November 30th says, if you must speak, make sense. If you must speak, make sense. Let's see what else we have here. Right.
Hey, Tautak Hara Mhabab Jadefre Hatap. Welcome everybody to the Wu-Sabat Outformation classes in the UK, brought to you by All Eyes in Egypt, Midlands and the North. Am I coming through okay, sound-wise?
Yes, you are.
Excellent. Okay, so appreciate that, and appreciate everybody for joining today. We're getting some obviously wisdom from excuse me, the Sabian calendar there to warm you up for the topic class for today, which is the proof by way of Nabab Yaanuwn, part 20. So I think, as Harat Mhabab Jadefre Hatap had explained earlier, if you haven't seen the previous parts to this, I think up on YouTube are up to part 16 on there, so the remaining parts will be on there shortly, and obviously on the Facebook channel the live parts are on there at the moment. I just have to sift through, but we'll get those on the YouTube channel. Should be by before the end of the week, so apologies for any delay in that regard. Now, what we do want to express as well, welcome to those who are joining us on Facebook Live. We're not monitoring the chat at the moment on Facebook Live, so if you do have any questions that you post in there, we'll pick those up after the class. Should be from December, probably January, we will be monitoring all channels live, so we'll be able to pick up questions from Facebook Live in the future. Just a little bit of change around of resources, but we're not doing that currently. So if you do got questions, then use the link in the chat to join on Zoom if you've not registered before. Okay, yeah, quite a bit to get through today, so we'll see how we get on. So trying to looking to conclude the proof by, I think, in this month, if we can do, but we'll see how how we get on. Bearing in mind, I would say that the 20 classes that we have done to date probably cover the first 100 pages of that book. So, and that's not in full detail. We're sort of summarizing. So the next couple of sessions we'll go over, I think we're on we're talking about verses 335 to 675. So what we're going to do, it'll probably feel a bit like a bit of a recap. So we'll go over that. Obviously, if you've been here for the majority or some of the parts of it, then it should feel familiar. So as obviously the master teacher in his inevitable writing style adds more detail, the sort of background of it should make more sense if you've obviously been following these classes, but we will supplement obviously if not. So if you're not clear about anything, ask questions. It's an interactive session today, so as it always is, and if you do not ask questions and you sit there in ignorance, then it's only to your detriment. So you understand, we're happy to stop things and explain in more detail rather than you sit there in ignorance. Okay, so let's crack on then. So I'm going to assume, because we've been on for a while, just to save a bit of time, that the sound is clear and that the visuals, that you can see the visuals okay. So if it is not the case, then can you just put some feedback in the chat area, and then we'll adjust accordingly, just to save a bit of time today. So what we're going to do is open up the class with some recitement called Partak Yud, the affirmation, and rather than me say it, I'm going to play it where you've got the sisters and the brothers saying it in harmony, so just get used to the sort of tones or the way it's sort of said when we come together, I suppose, in a congregational sense to do something spiritually. So sometimes you'll hear certain things in unison, and sometimes you'll hear certain things in harmony, and effectively excuse me, the Aum chant that you hear, I think in some spiritual different contexts or whatever, we used to play it on here as well, done by Tibetan monks. Obviously in this day and time we would perform our own chant, and that would be a combination of the different tones within, of course, our race or nation as it sort of comes together to perform that. So we're redoing things obviously for the day and time that we're in. So the Aum that may have been applicable, I don't know, thousands of years ago, whatever, would have a slightly different tonation today, because obviously it's the background or us sinking in with that universal or underlying vibration overstood for the day and time that we're in. Do you understand? And we make that tonational sound today. So hearing what's being said is important, but also the fact that the brothers and sisters are coming together to chant in harmony is quite interesting. So that's why I'll stop doing it and let them do it to save my voice. Okay, so we'll do that now. Just bear with me one moment while we adjust.
Nabab, Nadar, Mukhtar, Naut, Muqdad, Baded, Fatah, Naut, Mukhlas, Baded, Yaanuwn.
Partak Yud.
Anuki, Jawef, Ashuk, Hem, Paut, Wukalal, Ashuk, Kawun, Jawef, Neya, Anuki, Kasam, Em, Paut, Paut, Kawun, Kasam, Em, Neya, Anuki wahu amet paut, paut kawun wahu amet neya, nakuk kadur najuk amet kasam em paut, Habub Ahmed Mushkhasum Nakuk Kador Kawan Kalal Pafaf Nakuk Arod Jawef Apaut Ahmed Wasef Ahmed Aradni Kawun Laye Bakoy Jawef Apaut Anuki Abed Leye Nafashni Apaut Kawun Anuki Apaut Kador Nakuk Kador Apaut Amul Nakuk Amul.
Okay, so appreciate you being open-minded enough to take that in. So, yeah, we said in the Wu-Sabat language as it was recited in, and now translated into English for full and proper understanding or understanding to understanding. Holy, 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 Master, Overseer, Almighty. No God except Ptah, no Savior except Yaanuwn, the affirmation. And then it said, I am in the divine love of the all-expanding, and all divine love is inside me. I am a part of the all-expanding, and the all-expanding is a part of me. I am one as the all-expanding, and the all-expanding is one as me. I can succeed as a part of the all-expanding and fail as an individual person. I can be all that I wish in the all-expanding as long as my wish is to stay in the all-expanding. I am never by myself. The all-expanding is, I am. The all-expanding can, I can. The all-expanding does, I do. Yeah, so that was the affirmation, falsehood, as they say in the Wu-Sabat language. And as I say, throughout these 20 or so, well, 19 up to this particular part, gone into that in some detail. So check out the importance of us understanding the difference between existence and creation. Understood? Obviously, existence precedes creation. Creation in the science of Wu-Sabat deals with growth into form or system. Do you understand? And actually, the word creation, if you look it up in etymology, it means growth. You understand? From the Latin word creare. So it deals with growth as opposed to snap your fingers and things magically appear. Now, if you are joining us on the Zoom platform for the first time today, then how we use the platform is if you need to adjust your audio settings for any reason, then these are the options here on the left hand side. And then you've got 3 interactive buttons for how you interact with today's class. There's also another button, which is a reaction button. So if something touches you in any way emotionally, then feel free to react appropriately in that regard, matching your emotion. Now, if you've got messages, etc., or feedback, or whatever the case may be, it is not questions. It could be reacting to what's being taught. Sometimes I may ask a question to the audience, and you may need to respond back into the chat to give me some feedback in that regard. So, anything that's not questions, drop it in the chat area. If you do have questions, which we encourage, then there are 2 ways to ask questions. So the first one is to raise your hand. That will enable you to come through live and ask your question directly to me as your student teacher for today's session. If you've joined us online by way of the web, then this message will appear on your screen once prompted. Simply unmute yourself and you can come through live to us to ask your question directly. If you have dialed in, then those options are slightly different. So *9 on your mobile to raise your hand, and then when prompted, it'll be *6 to unmute yourself in order to speak, and then we'll ask *6 again to mute yourself back as to not once you finish your question. So muting yourself back once you've asked your question or finished your interaction, just to not disturb the rest of the call, because you now have permission to be able to mute and unmute yourself at will. If you don't want to come through live, then click the Q&A button and simply type your question, and then one of 2 of the facilitators will ask that question on your behalf today. Yeah, understood. So no need to sit there in ignorance. If you've got questions, feel free to ask them. Now, I'll do the poll today. Don't have any poll questions today in terms of quizzes, which we sometimes do, just to say to make sure the learning is clear, but none for today. Okay, so let's get into a little bit short introduction. The reason I say short as well, usually going to maybe a bit longer for those joining us for the first time. But part of these next two parts, probably not this one, but next week's, going to go into a little bit more about the journey of the Nabab Khatta in a bit more detail around that. So certainly check out next week's class and possibly the one after for more detail into the type of spiritual journey and how we arrive at the position that we are do today. So we're not space cadets, we're not dealing with no spook god stuff. We like to make sure that things are grounded, so it's only fair excuse me, without, as I say, constraining our minds to not leave it open for the impossible. But at the same time, we used to read with an open mind, but in the hereafter, into the thereafter doctrine, we read with a controlled mind in this day and time. So factual, but we still need to leave ourselves open, because the society that we live in today, what we've been taught, we don't know everything. You understand? You come out of the university, as they say, with 1 degree, not with 360 degrees. So this means that in the modern era, understood, the word modern ties in etymologically speaking into the word mode, understood, and we'll touch more about that a little bit later in the class today. But so it means that basically, yeah, we don't know everything. So a lot of knowledge has been hidden for us through racism and other ills of the sort of human race in that regard. And so we still need to leave our mind open for input for the impossible, do you understand, whilst being grounded enough, as I say, factually, to ensure that it is factually possible, do you understand? So we do facts as our form of spirituality, not faith and belief. Now, insofar as who are we? Well, as we started and opened, we are the United Sabians Worldwide. This, I suppose, class is locally being brought to you by All Eyes on Egypt, Midlands and the North. And the founder of our organisation and the bringer of the science that we teach today, known in this day and time as Wu-Sabat. It's had other names in the past, but known in this day and time as Wu-Sabat. And those who follow Wu-Sabat are known as Musbatu or Sabians, understood. Now, I'm talking about teachers or leaders of organisations, whatever. It's important, obviously, to understand who their parents are. We are a matriarchal, and there always have been a matriarchal culture, do you understand, within Africa, obviously, and in this context beyond our arrival here on this planet, so in and beyond the stars, matriarchal. Wu-Sabat is, in terms of language, is feminine in origin. And the mother of the founder of our organisation, Dr. Malachi K.Z.York, was born in Ghana in 1945, June 26 to be specific. Was born to Mary Abba Akran-York, and she was more popularly known as Fatima, born March 10th, 1929. And the Ghanaian heritage comes through from this side of the family, you understand, of the Iwe tribes of the Iwe tribe of the Akan tribes in Ghana, West Africa. And his father, sacred mescaline, known as Al-Hadi Abdul Rahman Al-Mahdi. Let me just touch back on a second. Her in that sacred feminine role, as you see and notice there, in the sort of sacred colours, you see the lotus flower there in the design. Understood? So, as I say, transition now. She's part of obviously our ancestors in the Sabaic. They say in Sabaic Muslafu, or we say in Sabaic Muslafu. Yeah, one who is of our ancestors. Do you understand? So, which is obviously important to us. So, in Sabaic, Musabu, relatives. Yeah. Next level up, obviously, those who have transitioned, but still part, obviously, of us. They're referred to as Muslafu, and the higher ancestors, who are depicted as sons, are known as Natharu, which translates as overseers. Understood? Yep. So, and we connect to our Natharu by way of our Muslafu, understood? Yeah, so there's an unbroken chain, at least etherically speaking, in the context of how we are connected. Do you understand? Some refer to that maybe as our soul, in that regard, or one aspect of our soul. And the sacred masculine side of the family, linking into the Sudan, so another part of Africa, as it's obviously split up today. Al-Hadi Abdul Rahman al-Mahdi, born 1922, which was assassinated in 1970 as the father of Isa al-Hadi, al-Mahdi as he was known, in at that time, or in that school, in the Islamic degree. But I say ties in not to a great man in his own right, a great sacred masculine in his own right, but linked to a very famous person, Sayyid Muhammad Ahmad al-Mahdi, so born 1845 to 1885, do you understand? And so many don't acknowledge, well, in his story, they acknowledge the presence of the Mahdi, who himself is not Sudanese, in fact was ancient Egyptian, you understand, by way of the Fazi-Wazis, the Dongolawi tribe there, do you understand? In fact, was hired by the Sudanese to say in several different wars that took place to drive the British and the Turks out of Africa, do you understand? Very famous, as I say. And to us, a master spiritualist, master Karama, understood, a black magic specialist, and that has various different connotations wrongly in this day and time. But black magic means when nature works, when the force of nature works for you, and you are black. And so that's what it means to us. Whatever movies are out there, do you understand? Different connotations, you understand? It's when nature works for us. And if you really get into the story of the Mahdi, you'll find out, as I say, they were to overcome highly technological weaponry in Gordon Pasha and others, had cannons, various versions of machine guns of that period, and they beat them with spears and stones, do you understand? So work that one out. How that happened in that regard. Yeah, so very powerful individual. I think that new movie, June, that movie Dune, June. Interesting enough, they refer to the individual who's playing, the character, I should say, in the movie is referred to as the Mahdi. They're quite interesting. But I didn't see the Muslim world kicking off about that seemingly. Do you understand? Maybe had he been looked like the real Mahdi in the movie, they would have more to say about it. But here we go. So acknowledge, as I say, that our ancestors has used various different methods to convey information that is necessary to aid their children's transformation and ascension journey. And in ancient Egypt, that being was known as the Nabab Raye Akhtar, or proper name that being was known. They referred to him as Tahuti in that particular culture, but the proper title Nabab Raye Akhtar. So a vehicle or vessel that our ancestors use to communicate that which we need to know about in this day and time to aid our transformation journey. Do you understand? And in various different schools, the name of that has changed, and we'll get into that, as I say, as we explore more in part 2 of this round of this set of classes, meaning it was tailored for our mindset, tailored for our people, for where we were in that day and time. And so I came giving you what you want, so you'd learn to want what I really came to give. And it's a methodology that's very important, particularly for indigenous people on the planet, because we don't dig up the bodies of our ancestors. Not to say that archaeology, paleontology, and these various different sciences are not utilized, but that's not the way that we find out about ourselves. Understood? So there was a mechanism of us linking into natural nature, which appoints the very forces, as I say, that aids us to, as we move away from what we truly were, and to bring or enable at the right appointed time, you understand, to restore back our mind again, obviously because we were dead mind, dead people, restore back our mind again. And this is the transformation that you're seeing here, the true resurrection, symbolized by the Ankh tree. Understand? Ankh, this is a symbol of life, do you understand, in that regard for our children, our progeny. But the double resurrection is the resurrection or the reconnection of us back to our true mind again, or the mental reservoir, do you understand, by way of our ka'ah and by way of our ba'ah, our soul and spirit in that regard, being plugged back in again correctly on the right frequency called Wu-Sabat, understand, or our station that we that Wu-Sabat is being broadcast on, and that we are reconnecting back with. Okay, one moment, please. Oh, one moment. Apologies for that. So in his current iteration, known as Nabab Yaanuwn, and say the vessel speaking through, Nabab Yaanuwn, and obviously they see the name of the body, His Excellency Dr. Malachi K.Z.York, Okran. And so say it can seem strange to our people in this day and time, but yeah, it shouldn't be if you think about how they describe a lot of their monotheistic, unproven stories versus the way we used to do things, as I say, in ancient Egypt and even before then. Do you understand? So pre-dynastic, all the way to the very origin of things. Do you understand? So interesting enough, as you see here, this I suppose papyrus in that regard, or scroll known as a scroll of eyes, and that's been there, if you see, or that symbol certainly has been there from when the master teacher first started teaching, even the religious schools that we were taken through, all the way to where we see the doctrine, as this is known today as the here or the thereafter doctrine, and it's then hereafter the devil's rule ended, year 2000, you understand, slightly after the Nines aligned, September 9th, 1999, near the end of their 6,000 rule dominion, as they describe it in their Torah, their Bible, their Quran, which looks backwards towards the Torah, do you understand? So in that damn time, that was the ending of their time, do you understand? Both not only by described in their books, but also insofar as referencing how their own lords, nothing but extraterrestrials, who grafted and made them, placed a clock, excuse me, in their race, the telomerase, where their obviously certain genes were to expire at that point, understood. So in this day and time, that led to the statement, obviously, which was from back then, but means more now in this day and time, to say, I came giving you what you want, so you'd learn what I really came to give. So the scroll of eyes is dealing with what I really came to give. Do you understand? The true, as I say, science of Wu-Sabat, us now being ready to go from religion in terms of the sort of understanding into our over, maybe for a select few, the inner standing required, as I say, to transform you from mortals back into deities once again. Right, okay, so let's get into where we were in terms of part 20. And so I'm going to do it. Some of the stuff's going to feel a bit like a bit of a recap, which is fine. Which is fine for us. I'm not going to go through everything in loads of detail, but as I say, mainly focusing on what we're talking about here. Verses from verse 335 of the proof. Any questions before I get into this?
No questions.
Okay, appreciate that. Excuse me. So now this is from memory, so I will maybe correct that next week to see whether to post a reference for that. But death is a doorway to an eternal forever, and birth is a doorway to a limited life. So as you'll be familiar with, or some of you may be familiar with, is that our ancestors view this life, understood, as as death, and then where they are, that is truly living. Do you understand? And so they're living, and then when you're born, the light of life, do you understand, by way of the breath, is cut on. Do you understand? If you imagine in a dark room, you cut on the light of life, understood, and then when you stop breathing, the light goes out. Do you understand? All that fire, which is powered by way of the breath, goes out. Do you understand? So when you're born, you're destined to die. Understood? But the darkness or the blackness is eternal. Understood? And so remember that is referenced by way of the 4 sons here: Atum, Atun, Amun, and Anun. Understood? Which is, as I say, symbolic. We know the sun does not move certainly our sun does not move in a direction of travel. It does turn on its own axis, as all stars do, and doesn't move in a direction. So this is an illusion, excuse me, of somebody standing on the earth looking upwards. Do you understand? But there is a lot in, this kind of quality cycle that features not only within our doctrine, but aligns itself with the jigsaw that we've been speaking to you about, as I say, for the last 20 parts. You understand this correlation, as above, so below, but then what's beyond above? You understand? So what's in the heavens, as they describe it as, and as we also mapped it as, but then what's beyond that? And that's what obviously we've been exploring by way of the proof. So these 3 sons, or 4 in fact, many didn't know about Anun. Yeah, so female, and male. These describe the positions. Understood? Now, when the sun is in that position, then it becomes Atum Re or Atum Reye. Yeah, so this is why you see them singly, because it's describing the position. Understood? But when the sun is in the respective position, the Reye bit gets added in. You understand? Hence it becomes Atun Re, Amun Re, so on and so forth. So on the life journey, yes, and why we chant, or prior to that, before chanting, we used to pray as part of Shutat, and pray at a certain point 3 times a day. Yes, because this aligns with your life journey, doesn't it? You wake up in the morning, understood, and then as you sort of more active during the daytime, you reach a sort of peak where you're sort of fully awake, and then you retire to sleep, you understand, for rest, you understand. And some excuse me, this is your sort of waking time, and then you retire to bed, sleeping, and this would be you sort of descending into the underworld. So in these higher bits, you are visible, or it's the visible you, isn't it? So the sun is visible. So this is the sun as it appears to rise in the morning, sun at noon, and the sun as it appears to set. You understand? And then the part, because of the rotation of the planet, depending on what side you're on, rotates away from the sun. You cannot see it, but you can feel it. Do you understand? So you know it's there, but you can't see it with your physical eyes. Do you understand? So this is the Anun, obviously, point. Now, this can also be overlaid against the life journey. So even though it's our daily cycle, life, yeah, the point of life, living, and then lived. Understood? Yeah, so life, living, and lived. And so, excuse me. And then one is, you know, what Amun means at that point, you understand, is spent energies as thought and sound. Yeah, so Amun at this point, yeah, spent energies as thought and sound. So when you leave the physical, then obviously you're remembered, isn't it, by the memories of, you know, how you lived your life, and that those memories may contain, depending on who you are and how impactful you were, they could be retained within people, or they may be retained externally, people monuments, or they've written about you understand, photos, pictures, so on and so forth, you understand? So your legacy, almost in a sense, is retained in the things that you affected whilst you were alive or here, and that obviously leads to you being remembered. Do you understand? In that context. So, and if you look at the word remember, you see, if you read it with dyslexia, you see member of Ray. Do you understand? So, all of these things tie back into the sun, and obviously our solar journey as incarnated sons. So, this is one of the ways as well which we sort of prove. Obviously, you can't have life after death, but you do have existence after death. Now, what form of existence we have after death is obviously how you develop yourself within this particular life. You understand? So it's in a similar way. In order to be born into the next level of existence, you have to strengthen the aspects of you that become prominent, obviously, in the next level of existence. And in fact, in their, you know, their sort of fake Bible that they have in Genesis chapter 2 verse 7, in the sense of the Lord breathed into God and man became a living soul. But the reality is you don't get to live as soul until you die. You understand? So because the body is removed, and the comparative to that happens to you now, isn't it, is that when you go to sleep, your physical sort of shuts down, you know, vibrating on the sort of A tone level. Do you understand? And what comes to the fore? Your mind comes to the fore, doesn't it? You're living through your soul. You're living through your mind, your dreams, etc. Even if whether you remember them or don't remember them, you're living and expressing yourself through your mind. Do you understand? And actually, when you're dreaming until you wake up, you understand, you might not, you don't know which is a dream. You understand? Until you sort of wake up, it will feel real to you in that context. So this is just important to understand, to say this kind of, again, another quality principle here, and how it's all interrelated, I say, and all interconnected to our physical, coming from the spiritual in that context, and then, you understand, to higher forms of energy in that regard. So, and as I say, when a person stops breathing, that's the end of the life that pertains to the breath. But we know through, as I say, these symbols here, for example, and this is something from I think it's called Mission Earth, the book, yeah, one of the Supreme Mathematics series. And as you can see, even from, let's say, I mean, the Master Teacher has been teaching since 63 officially, do you understand? But this is a book from the 90s, you know, showing the link to ancient Egypt, you understand? And obviously where we were always going and always been, do you understand? And so really and truly, we know that we're coming back into the mindset that we are supposed to be when these symbols that we're reading about, or looking at, I should say, are starting to make a lot more sense. Yeah, and we see here hurrah. Yeah, see here hurrah on this boat, or manjet, do you understand? Or craft, yes, in that regard. So much symbolism, to be uncovered, and you should be uncovering as your mind's eye or third eye starts to open itself once again, having been closed. Let's appreciate it with bad information that we've learned within this society that never had any, I suppose, into understanding in the context in which it was framed, and in some instances, or a lot of instances, there was hate in there, which basically kept information away from certain people to keep them under subdued or subservient and under control. Okay, so let's get into what we're going to talk today. So 335 starts from the bottom set of slides, but I just want to recap on a couple of things just so before then, just so we can get into some of the detail of this. Any questions?
No questions. No questions.
So we were showing you the respective sons there on the life journey or on the daily journey. Understood? And so we overlay that basically to understand the symbolism of color, and so this can vary. Do you understand? But blue is the fastest color on the light spectrum. Understood? And so when you talk about light spectrum, you're simply making reference to particles that are moving, you understand, in darkness. So particles moving in darkness at a certain speed, depending on how fast the speed of that particle hits your eyes determines what color you see. Do you understand? So it's about particles moving in darkness at a particular speed. You understand? And then your interpretation is going to be how quickly or what speed that particle hits your eyes, and therefore that determines what color it is coming out to you. So blue is the fastest, and then red is the slowest, understood, on that spectrum. Do you understand? And so we obviously only see a very small aspect of the visible spectrum, understood. And so it doesn't mean that certain things don't exist. It doesn't mean like radio waves and television waves, for example, do not exist. They do, but they just happen to be a lot larger than 400 nanometers. So here, this sort of visible light spectrum here is just this kind of small bit here. Yep. Out of the whole light spectrum. Do you understand? So that's why you can't see things. Doesn't mean they do not exist. So in our ignorance, just because you can't see something doesn't mean that it's not there. You understand? So so these things clearly do exist because people, I'm sure on the call have had X-rays, and I'm sure people on the phone have got on this webinar have televisions. You understand? And maybe have had radios in the past, and maybe still have radios today. So these are receivers of those frequencies. Do you understand? So what you have to understand in your context is that you are also a receiver of frequencies. You understand? By way of obviously your melanin. You understand? So color is telling us, in certain contexts, color is telling us something. And in this stage, as it relates to colors per se, obviously it's explained about vibration and the speed of certain particles within the environment. So your extremes are blue, obviously here, and red. And then we have the yellow. So these are primary colors within nature. And as I say, you can overlay those amun, over these colors. So they're representing moods of vibrational energy. And what we can see here is that in between these colors, we obviously you combine yellow and blue, you get green. You combine yellow and red, obviously you get orange. So these colors here, you can see, are not naturally occurring in that regard. They are a hybrid of the two colors, or a mix of the two colors. Do you understand? Your three primary, the primary colors are the real colors and then obviously we've got variations of color in between. Do you understand? Yeah. And so when we start to look back, for example, at the diagram that we're looking at, for example, as I say, we can overlay that against these positions. Yeah, so there's much in the symbolism, and then here when we get to Yaanuwn, for example, as this is the strongest point of the rays of the sun at noon, and as I say, that we call it noon, yes, as in 12 o'clock, yes, but you see, Yaanuwn is also containing the noon point here as its opposite in that regard, you understand, dealing with the primordial waters. So this would represent the blackness, clearly, of space, do you understand? So not the absence of colour, but rather all colours are combined, isn't it? Come out of blackness, do you understand? So that which precedes colour is blackness. Yeah, that which precedes colour is blackness. Understood? So, or in fact, the way to say it is the origin of colour is out of the blackness. Do you understand? And it is birthed, understand, from blackness in that regard. And we understand what birth is, yes, when we say that, you understand, as opposed to what came before birth. Understood? Yeah. So, yeah, so it can be overlaid in that regard, and say all relating to description of different types of energy. Yeah. So, yeah, I won't go into this too much because I think that people understand the context of that which is being said. But yeah, I mean, let's just touch upon 280 in a few instances, because it's just reminding us of certain things that we were going through before. Yeah, so it says, so they are illusions of illuminations. Let's just put that back so you know what's been referenced to there. So where there is light waves, there is sound waves, a manifestation, material as colourless hydrogen into colourless helium onto Parshamash the sun, and even sunspots, which are temporarily cooler regions appearing cyclically as Rawen, dark spots on the sun. So sunspots from when the sun was in a much more powerful state than it is today are the reason why it has offspring or planets. Do you understand? So it's from sunspots that the planets obviously are shot. There was a shooting off of these very hot gases which got caught obviously in the sun's gravitational field, and then obviously within that orbit, over time, these hot gases cooled, formulated what we have as the plan ET or planets today. Now, 279, all Loanat colors are vibrational and moving. The speed to which it reaches your sight determines what you see as the Wan color, which we explained previously. So it says 280. So they are illusions of illuminations. So behind all you see as Loan color, and Sabarat hues is power and Nashat energy. Just as the darker skinned Africans have much faster pigmentation in the tissue, so it is with all. 281. The Yahasat genes of the Khamem Salah black race are more powerful and much stronger than all others. The lighter the weaker, the same with hair Loan color and thickness, as well as Ayan eye color. 282. My beloved, this is not racism, this is a fact. Please don't just believe me. Check it all out to know fact from racism. As you have lived a lie most of your lives by the Leben Salah white race and their racism because of their inferiority complex taught to them by the Greeks and Romans who visited Africa and saw black Gadadu gods, and the Akalat minds of the people was the same, so they knew they met Gadadu gods. 283. Vacuum is the Khamem black magic, magnetic opposite of white magic, repels. 284. Khamem black magic hides as material, then germinates it in the cover of Rawennos darkness. Triple darkness in the Raham womb, the free G station, or gestation. It's a GE, Earth and station, Earth station or gestation. The time periods of creating a child in the uterus, pregnancy, triple darkness. So, excuse me. It says here, 285. Vacuum is a hider of the hidden in the Fatir al-Fatah, natural nature. Amun, Amen means hidden secret. So like spent energies, sound and thought, the goddess, Mudaltat, mother, created 1000% another being. Understood? So as we've expressed, I've been teaching you for sort of last 19 parts or whatever the case may be. Yes, excuse me. It all relates to what came before, and I say this journey of things into some things, and where things start in terms of origin, and how the symbolism used by our ancestors in the form of the safaf or safafat, you understand, that they what you call hieroglyphics or sacred writings, was basically the bridge between the visible and the world of darkness that we don't see. Do you understand? Because it's representing the world that you can't see in terms of symbolism. But we were ignorant. Ignorance means to ignore the facts. We were ignorant to those symbols because the Mukasu race and the Mudamu taught you to stay away from that. That's paganism. Do you understand? That's not for you. The Egyptians were bad people because of their battle in the fake story that they've propagated to the world of Moses. And Moses was the good guy. Moses was the hero, and the Israelites and the Egyptians, i.e., in inverted commas, Africans, in Africa was a bad place. Do you understand? But their God seemingly always sent their famous prophets there. So they programmed in your mind to stay away from that, whilst they have spent billions of pounds, dollars, and other forms of currency around the world. Yes, basically finding out, well, what did these people know? You understand? Whilst not giving them the real credit, unless they could tie themselves into the vine. So if they could perpetrate to the world that, well, these Egyptians were white, in inverted commas, high inverted commas, were white, then they're happy to tell the story. When it appears that it's obviously that they were black, then they want to keep certain things hidden from the world. And when we start really to get into it, you can really, and this is really by way of the blessings of our Natharu, by way of Nabab, Yaanuwn, and the sacrifices made to teach his doctrine. You get they deliver concepts like a black pharaoh. You understand? Black pharaoh. How can there be such a thing as a black pharaoh? Firstly, what is a pharaoh? Is the pharaoh in the language of the ancient Egyptians? The word pharaoh. So would they have called themselves pharaohs? Because if they're not calling themselves pharaohs, you understand, then it doesn't mean nothing. So before you even add the concept of color to it, because they didn't refer to themselves as pharaohs. The Sabbaic term is in actuality para Raye Aha, means temple of the sun and moon. Para, temple, Raye, sun, Aha, moon. Not pharaoh. You understand? Which is a combination of two words. Do you understand? Which is dealing with, let's say, the sort of the inner sun. So it's a bastardization of the word. So if you don't even understand that, now you're trying to add your racism in by separating the people by saying, well, there are black pharaohs. Well, if there's black pharaohs, then what color are you trying to insinuate everybody else is? You understand? It's like in the Muslim or Islamic degree when they tell you that Bilal was black. Understood? He was considered to be Ethiopian. Then what color was everybody else then? Yeah, so they like to play these silly games to keep you away from the real truth about who and what you are. Understand? Back then and for the then of now. Understand? In this day and time. Yeah, so you won't make the connection. Yeah, so it's a situ. No, as far as I'm aware, you understand, I've not met any Sabians who are archaeologists. I've not met any Sabians who are paleontologists. But many student teachers, you understand, over the years, birthed from the master teacher, can explain, yeah, our ancient Egyptian culture, yeah, very well. Yeah, rivaling any of those, I don't know, whoever, the people who call themselves Egyptologists. Yeah, we're not Egyptologists. We are, you understand, the ancient Egyptians. You understand? We are their descendants, which makes them us. Understood? So you get foolishness like that has to be the cancer of racism. I don't think people really understand how much damage, you understand, both racism but also monotheistic religion, how much damage it has done to our people. There was I remember there was a question and answer class many years ago when the master teacher was teaching the form of Isa al-Mahdi, and somebody asked him about the about the issue with drug dealers, and the master teacher responded and said, well, what about the pastors and the preachers who are teaching from obviously poor translations, who don't necessarily know what they're talking about? Now, somebody looking at that and think, well, a pastor, you can't compare a pastor to a drug dealer, you understand, in terms of their impact on society. But the issue is that you may look at that now from a less ignorant perspective and understand, well, if the mind is the most powerful thing in the universe, then to destroy or poison someone's mind and poison their potential, and their capacity to change their conditions for the better, you understand, is more dangerous, you understand, than drugs, because it has a generation, or both have a generational impact, but more so if you can fool somebody's mind, then you've got them trapped forever. People can stop taking drugs, do you understand? Stop selling drugs. They can recover from that. I'm not saying you can't recover, but if you don't even know the information's bad, so it's perpetrating, insofar as religion is perpetrating itself as good, but is the real poison, as we touched upon several classes ago. There was 66 books from the original 72 that they had in their Bible, so that says 666, that they claim, not we claim, they claim is the number of the beast. Understood? Then, you know, what are they peddling and pushing? They're the real drug dealers, do you understand? Our minds are being drugged. Yeah, we've been sent back to sleep. Yeah, the drug of death is monotheistic religion that keeps us subservient to other races. Do you understand? So when we come along with our stuff now, many of the things we say, it sounds like some kind of science fiction movie or something of that nature, when the real truth of who you are is hard to accept because of the damage, understood, that's been done by way of this bad information. Do you understand? False information, lying information, faith and belief. Yeah, masquerading as the truth. Yeah, so it's kept you in a certain formation, but now obviously you need the medicine in this day and time, Wu-Sabat, in the form of Outformation, to transform you once again. Understood? Now, spare me one moment. Okay, so let's look at this in a bit more detail. So we've gone into vacuum in a bit more detail. So I'm not going to go into that in loads of detail. We'll progress it as we sort of move through this. Yeah. Now, let's press through. No, I think we've covered these to death in previous parts, so let's crack on to where we are. So, I want to touch upon this as well before we advance into verse 355, yeah, which is the lotus plant. So we touched upon it earlier in the class. A lotus plant, a symbol of regeneration, a symbol of the sacred feminine, and from in our language, its symbol is for the number 1000. Do you understand? Which we know is the perfect number, understood, and represents the woman. See that in the Roman numerals, they use M for 1000. We know that in the Hebrew language, M is a word for mother. In the Arabic language, they have it today, yeah, which is just replacing the vowels or changing the vowel, is the word for mother. Do you understand? Which is the phonetic sound of them using M. In the Wu-Sabat language, M means of. Understood? So you can see again that in the trick knowledge that the letters, understood, in the English language do not have the sound, yeah, the phonetic sound of how the letter how the letter of itself sounds. So M, we would say M is a meh sound, there's end for the letter, but it'd be referring to it as M, which is an EM sound. It is not a meh sound. Yeah, so this creates problems in the language. Yeah, that's why we refer to it as trick knowledge, because you're having some letters have double sounds, for example, and some letters, their phonetic sound is not the name of the letter. Do you understand? So one of the reasons why you have to relearn your own language is because in the Wu-Sabat language, M, understood, is, yeah, M is as it is. It's not representing something else. So you can say M means something, but now because our generation now think M, that's M the letter. Do you understand? When in actuality, it's a word from your language to mean of. And it's used, excuse me, when it in basically in relation to, we're talking about people, a title. Do you understand? So it's basically related to people or deities, things like that of importance. Understand? It's a separate to Shalel. Understand? So here in language, it means of. But you see that the lotus flower represents obviously 1000. So that M, as you see in the word mother, M other. So the zeros, as we have gone through many times before, understand, are the offspring. Understand? And so when you say an other, you see there that the word an, excuse me, the word an is there, and in Akkadian, other language, remember that means it's their word for the Most High. In the Sumerian doctrine, you see the term Anu there. But in ancient Egypt, remember that Anu, as we played, I think in the previous class, we played your class breaking that down. So Anu with two N's, which is what the Greeks refer to as Heliopolis. So it means city of the sun. Understand? So when we see an other, what are we getting? Well, what we're getting there is, for us at least, is reason. Understand? Because you're getting a son of Ray, yes, arising from that mother son, you understand, or mother ship, understand, or the M other, so the source of it, and then you're getting a copy off of the original. Do you understand? So this is why this doctrine is interesting and very incredible, and how your mind, or certainly if I can indulge, be a little bit self-indulgent, you understand? My mind was opened from reading Actual Facts number 19, which is who is God, male or female. Do you understand? So the fact of the matter is, and that's just my personal thing, you can take it how you want to take it. Do you understand? But the point is that our doctrine is not just saying it for the sake of saying it. Do you understand? In terms of when we talk about matriarchal, we're pointing or realigning ourselves with how natural nature is. You understand? And so within even the letter that they're using, as we showed you last time, there's much symbolism in there, to be uncovered and explored, which is going to, as I say, reactivate dead aspects of your brain that weren't paying attention properly because we wasn't feeding it with the right seeds within the mental soil of our mind. Understood? So even when we talked about those gestation periods, or GE station, Earth station, where in the Earth station we see those 3 triple darkness, don't we? So the first trimester, second trimester, and then the third trimester. And again, 3 beings in one. That's the real 3 beings in one, not God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, or whatever. You understand? The real 3 beings in one. We start off as a reptilian, then into a grey or a Mardian, and then turn into a shaggy before we're ready then for the physical life. All taking place in dense water in the darkness, understood, shaped by the what? Image, nation, or imagination of the sacred feminine, or our mother. You understand? And as we expressed previously, that sperm and the ovum, you understand, that is our God. We don't know nothing else about no other God. Prove it. You would not be here if it was not by way of the sperm donated by your sacred masculine and the ovum donated by your sacred feminine. You understand? That is your God, or those are your gods. In reality, you can protest and make noise and talk to us about belief this, belief that, etc., etc., etc. But that is the reality. You would not be here if not by way of that union. You understand? In this particular life form. So that's the reality, of who we are. So the lotus flower of the origin is very important because what it does is it sets out the fact of our regeneration story and the regeneration capabilities as represented by the woman. You understand? And even the word woman, it starts with an M, which is upside down. You understand? So in this regard, so all these different letters, all the way they draw them, you never questioned. We never questioned it. We never questioned why it's shaped like that. We never questioned why it has that sound. But when a black man or woman is teaching, we got 20,000 questions for them as to, well, prove this. Where did that come from? Where did you get that? Etc., etc., etc. But we never put the white man to them tests. Never. And even today, with the mindset of change that we have today, we never put the white man to account or white woman to account when they present information. In the same way, we put our own to account. Now, it's not a problem for us to be held accountable, let's say, and put to the test for information, but you have to put everybody to that test. Not just your own, or not just because someone told you to question. Someone told me, don't believe, check it out. So therefore, I question the very person who told me that. No, it's a mindset to question everybody. So that you basically have your own. You don't have, the kadub of another race in your mouth, understood? Feeding you. Because in our symbols, the kadub was Atum with his kadub in his own mouth. It's not a sexual reference. Do you understand? It's a reference of self-sustaining, self-regeneration. Symbolically speaking, if you understand, kadub is a delivery device. So why is it, how can we stand up as a people? How can we stand up as deity in this day and time? We're being fed by information from others. That's informing our form. You're always going to be second place. You're always going to be subservient. This is why, out of love, out of care, we had somebody who was sent to us that always gave you your own. Take the time. If you want to believe in that Bible, let me give you your version of it. Hence why you have a translation of a Torah written by your own. Hence why you had a version of the Psalms, the Tefillin, of your own. Hence why you had a Quran of your own. Then to give you your own, you were given your own holy book, or the holy tablets. Understand? On into the sacred records of Atum Re'eh, the black book. Understand? Or the sacred records of Tamaray, the gold book. So as we evolved, you were given more of your own stuff. So you wouldn't have to rely on others, which keeps us in need. Keeps us subservient to others. You understand? So the separation or the detachment, why it's important, is because they're not teaching that stuff. It's patriarchal. Yeah? Patriarchal can only be something. It can't take you into the no thing or the blackness in that regard. Because a man is birthed from something. As we explained the last time, if all are if Adam is in the image and after the likeness of God, and all men are in the image and after the likeness of Adam, then what do men have? Men have 6-7 inches below the sort of solar plexus or whatever, they have a navel. What is a navel? Well, the navel is evidence that it was connected, you understand, to something or someone else. You understand? In our case, we know that was connected to a woman, to your mother. You understand? That's how as a man, you got your navel, because it was connected to a woman. Now, those are the rules of nature. Yeah, those are the rules of nature. So the reality is, who was Adam's navel connected to? And is that God? Yeah? So when they give us their stories, they don't make sense. But we never held them to account to make their stories make sense. We just accepted it through, as I say, faith and belief. And if we want to keep being subservient to other races, then we just keep embracing. Let's keep pulling our knowledge down, so it feels more like religion, and not wanting to stand up on our own 2 feet and make things happen and create once again as supreme beings, and embrace that title and embrace the help that's there. Do you understand? That we've been ignoring all of this time. Do you understand? So important we see it say the symbol for regeneration, the lotus flower, and make note of this symbol in your minds at least. Do you understand? As this tet or tat symbol that we see on the bottom. Do you understand? Also representing the female. Yeah, and important verse in 3:10. It says, so Nwapu, almost Batu, upgraded in this day and time. Yeah, Sabians of Wu-Sabat or Wunawap know this actual fact. No faith can change fate. Yeah, so this is important. You understand? In this day and time, as we transform from the religious thinking into the here and thereafter doctrines, yet thereafter, which is after 2012, you understand, which was the rise of the sacred feminine or the woman back to power, through the changes in the cycle, the 26,000 year cycle known as precession of the equinox. So we're replacing faith with taking control of our fate once again. Understand? So faith and belief is done. That is the 6 ether ghostational cycle. You understand? Myth, legend, myth, legend, lies. Now being replaced with truth, actual facts. You understand? Our way once again, Partarak, so that we can take control of our fate once again. Understanding the various different cycles that take place and how we fit in within that and so to take a best advantage of these the transformation effects that happen within nature. So it was necessary, for example, for our teacher to be born, or a teacher, or teachers to be born in this day and time. Why? Because we understand the cycles. The genes shift every 4 generations. You understand? So out of the horrendous attack on our people, referred to as slavery, but was a kidnapping of our people, you understand? Well, the 400 years from 1600 down to the year 2000, there was going to be a major shift in our genes, wasn't it? So it was necessary for Wu-Sabat to be given at this point to take advantage of that our minds would be ready for this next level of transformation. Otherwise, others, like they have sought to do, would co-opt that change and then birth something in their image and after their likeness. What we're fighting against, which is referred to as the spell. Yeah, so these opportunities, these cycles, they happen. They're larger sometimes than our own life form, at a planetary level, at a solar system level, at a universal level in that context. And so you have to work with and fit within, you understand, those patterns. Mentally as supreme beings, we may be outside of it, we may not be subject to it, but obviously if we believe that we are, then of course that we are. Understand? And if others know about that or have superior knowledge to it than you do, then that can inform their control. You understand? Same way in like Utnapishtim's time, who they call Noah in their Bible. Remember, it's not that the Anunnaki, excuse me, and the ones that stayed observing the Igigi, had knowledge of created the flood situation. No, they had knowledge of the 50,000 year cycle. As obviously scientists, they were technologically superior to those who were on Earth. So they basically manipulated the situation. They were the Earth's going to flood because the crust shifts on the planet every 50,000 years. So they knew what was coming, and obviously were able to save who they wanted to save, and who they didn't want to save, they let die in the flood. It's a cleansing situation. Do you understand? So these are cycles that are taking place, and if you've got knowledge of them, then you're going to work them to your advantage. If you are ignorant of them, then you're going to be, in a sense, subject to, in that instance, in that story at least, it was death for some, when they saved who they wanted to save. Do you understand? So this is a situation that we find ourselves in again, where we must replace our faith with fact. Understand? To take control of our fate. Fate again. And having 360 degrees of knowledge, physical and esoteric, in order to become whole once again. So this we covered in great detail, which is going into about the death cycles and what happens after death. I won't go into that in too much detail. Suffice to remind you that again, when we talk about faith and fate, important to understand. Some people say, okay, well, it's your time. So that makes that steps like that. It's your time, for example. When a person transitions, they say, well, that was your time. Well, when it says your time, it's to imply that, nothing could have changed that situation. It was your fate to particularly die maybe on that day. Well, it was when it happens. You understand? But if we think about our natural design, suffice somebody's life being taken prematurely for some other reason, it is the premeditated aspect of it, do you understand? Or the fate of it is based upon how the body is powered, understood, and how the body is designed. So if you looked at it from let's say an engineering perspective, and you put a battery in an object or whatever, a toy, let's say a remote control car. So you put, let's say, 2 batteries in, let's say it takes 2 batteries or whatever. You put 2 batteries in the car, the person who designed the battery, yeah, would understand basically that battery has got what? A natural life, isn't it? Yeah, there'll be the battery at a certain point will expire. Now, depending on the battery, let's say it was designed to power this remote control car. Let's say in this particular example, they would have designed it and it would be optimal, yeah, for a certain amount of cycles, yeah, power cycles, to power this particular car. Now, those power cycles, let's say it was 2,000 cycles or whatever the case may be. Now, if the person's doing things where the car is being triggered, they use the car every day, turn it off and on, do you understand? Cycle. I mean, more, let's say they're using it continuously on a daily basis, then it may take more, it'll be quicker, it may go through its natural power life a lot quicker than if somebody used those cycles a bit more sparingly. Do you understand? Over time. And so it may be considered to have, in inverted commas, a longer life. You understand? But really at the same power content, but in its particular environment and its use determined, you understand, over what time period, yeah, that the life of the battery would last. Do you understand? And so when we're now stepping into the science of who we are, we understand that actually our own body, yeah, is powered or has a certain power configuration and a certain amount of cycles before the physical body I'm talking about, a certain amount of cycles before it will naturally expire. Understood? And so we understand about telomeres, yeah, and the end of the chromosomes, which, as I say, the woman, by being double X, has excuse me, the maximum amount, and therefore, as it's been expressed here, lives longer, generally speaking, than her male counterpart, because of this extra telomere that is on the end of the chromosome. So these basically tell you, or each time basically you go through, so the body's continuously regenerating itself, so it's going through various different cycles. Understood? Excuse me. And over time, as it goes through these cycles, these telomeres, they shorten. Understood? So there's a certain amount of times, for example, that the heart is designed to beat. There's a certain amount of breath you're going to take. There's a certain amount of time your blood is going to renew itself. In the sense, it's a certain amount of time your organs are going to regenerate. Yeah, so this is set in time according to one's genes. Understood? And this is where we're talking about this issue about fate. Yeah, because it's only going to, as I say, regenerate a certain amount of times, unless I suppose it's interfered with in some way. But of course, the way we are living, or environment, can speed up these factors in terms of, what triggers these cycles to take place. So you go through, or you replicate pretty much the same things every day, you understand, in terms of wake up, eat, sleep, you understand, go to the toilet, etc., you understand, and then you sleep again. So you're going through these cycles on a daily basis, as we touched upon. Understood? And as you sort of work through, these sort of telomeres, or your genes, start to shorten, obviously, as a result. And then, so this is fate, not what somebody's saying out their mouth in relation to things that they don't necessarily understand how the interconnectivity of the world that we live in really works. But this is your fate, isn't it? Yeah. So unless it's say get hit by a car or something that might shorten the fragility or attack the fragility of the human body, insofar as it being hit by objects, but itself, the human body, is exceptionally resilient in terms of it will, even if you put the wrong things in it, you fill it with the wrong fuel, you don't manage it well, it will do what it can before it starts to complain about the issues. Certainly for a healthy individual. Do you understand? Not something somebody inherently born with a lot of defects. So 24, obviously, interesting enough, that number, but 24 in the double X chromosome side. Obviously, in the XY side, we have less, obviously, 21. So the male has a strand missing. And as I say, this means that, generally speaking, women will be younger than men as a result of the telomeres. Do you understand? So again, as we start to get into the science of what is taking place, understanding of how one's body works, understood, then the haziness of belief and faith, do you understand, goes away. Now, if somebody understands this more than you do, yeah, then of course they can manipulate. You understand? Because they have more knowledge or they are technologically superior and can manipulate things with their understanding of this. Do you understand? So one of the important things is that you are being informed, yes, so you can't be fooled. That's one of the reasons. You're informed so you can't be fooled. If you obviously apply yourself and study, you understand, the medicine of Wu-Sabat that's been given to cure our sick or diseased mind. Any other questions? Or any questions, just to say. Any questions?
No questions.
Right, okay. So, as you see here in 320, so life and how long you live is predetermined before you come out of the enclosed garden of life, the Raham womb, which yielded you. 321. Now, if you damage the temple, remember we Parah, yeah, Parah, temple of the sun and moon, so who's the real pharaohs, you understand? Yep. Damage the temple, body, drug it, poison it, abuse it, endanger it by premature death, accident, or even inherited bad Yahasat genes from the 4 previous generations in your own Yasaf family, or the male or female you exchange DNA with, or fluids, or who their own 4 generations, or who any of them exchanged bad DNA with, can and will affect your length of life, as well as health, such as diseases and the likes. So if you are wise, you'll see why I'm called the warner. So this is because, remember, accusations of, plagiarism and different things like that. Well, the question is, who taught the genetic kiss doctrine? Who came up with that? Yeah, for those who want to make the accusations now. Well, who came up with the genetic kiss doctrine? Simply understanding, as I say, and we've gone through this in many details, that's given me many classes previously, there's a series of classes to deal with the fact why, as I say, we talked about that sperm and the ovum, we talked about what sits around the sexual process, for example, and why it's not considered sacred. You understand? It's discarded in this society, trashed even in this society. As I say, you can sleep with 1,000 women as a man. Say you're a famous rapper or something like that. Yeah, you can sleep with 1,000. Yeah? No one's going to really raise their eyebrows too tough around it. So that means 1,000 of these different types of exchanges. You understand? Yeah, and are they being done in knowledge or done in ignorance? Yeah, so more so, let's agree they're being done in ignorance. So all of these genetics, all of these disease potentials are being exchanged around these, let's say, 1,000 women, or you understand, this rock star or rapper has stepped in. You understand? No one bats an eyelid. But let that same rapper, you understand, have 10 wives. 10 wives in a organized situation. Yeah, you see how much people run up their mouth about that. You understand? So when you have a situation where you're, you understand, being genetically responsible, let's say, yes, they have a problem, you understand, with it, unless it's with one woman, you understand, in their when they teach, because one woman in the context of that means what? A certain amount of children can be delivered at one time. Now, if you have obviously multiple wives or multiple women, that means it gives the capacity for both men and women to produce obviously more children and more offspring, which they consider then a threat to, you see what I'm saying, their power base. So why certain things are being taught to you a certain way in their religious degrees is not out of the purity of, you understand, the religious intent that many of you think it is. There's always some kind of hidden agenda behind it. You understand? So one, you can be genetically reckless, which will cause problems for multiple generations. No one says anything. Do you understand? But the moment you start to take control or put it in a controlled environment, understood, then they got names for you, etc., etc., and will attack you for living out, you understand, the very Bible that they claim to follow. If you look at how many wives Abraham had, and Solomon had allegedly 700 according to the story. You see what I'm saying? So it's not the fact of whether somebody has multiple wives or not multiple wives. What it's showing you is the way this society is bent out of shape, understood, to promote self-destructive behaviors as opposed to self-preservation behaviors. Understand? So when you have knowledge of this, excuse me, then you can deal with more of the as say prevention, they say, is better than cure, isn't it? Now when you're dealing with the you're dealing with words like design. You understand? Words like taking control of actually what is being produced or the outcome of what is being produced. Do you understand? Are you producing what you want? Yeah? Or you're managing the result of what's happened because we didn't take control at the right time or apply, you understand, when we had the right ability or right time to make choices. You understand? So now we have to manage on a reactive basis. We're not dealing with what we wanted to produce. You understand? So in that context, so at one time, of course, we were able to produce the children that we wanted to produce and maybe limit the exposure, to the things that would affect life length. You understand? Because obviously, one, we're making better decisions. Obviously, two, the genes were obviously a lot purer. You understand? If you maintain them within your own tribe and no one else has, no external forces come in to bring in foreign diseases or foreign genes or whatever, which obviously brings conflict into then your sort of tribal or nation situation. Do you understand? If they're not of your genetics, they're not of your culture, so on and so forth. Do you understand? So this knowledge takes us back into the blackness where we're making decisions where we can control what happens, you understand, in the light, so to speak. You understand? But this is it's not just a way of life and a mentality to live by. It's going to take several generations before we get back to that type of not only mentality and thinking, but as we know, 24% of our DNA is affected by our environment. So unless you have a controlled environment, you can't tell how the environment is going to positively or negatively impact the individual or the individual's body, their thinking, so on and so forth. This is how powerful these things are. But if you set up a controlled environment, what happens? They're going to attack you and call you a cult. They're going to call you all kinds of names. When they do it, it's not a problem. When we do it, understood? Yeah, oh, it's controlled, it's this. They got names to stop you from correcting the damage that has been done. Do you understand? So this is the difficulty that we're going to face difficulty we're going to face and are facing, in order to transform, because you understand there's a reason, why they're referring to it as an enclosed garden, because of the impact of your environment and the say dangers, but the difficulties and challenges around our birthing process. You understand? But we haven't taken care, and then we wonder why some of the youths are turning out the way they're turning out. Yeah. So, excuse me. Again, let's touch on a few things here. Not going to go into this in loads of detail, but about these tones. So the as it's touching upon here, as you can see, the 8 points there, yeah, for the design, for the 8 tips, obviously ties into not only the fact that these are complete. Yeah, we look at our angles here. 4 90-degree angles on the X in the center gives us 360 on this side. 4 90-degree angles in the center here gives us another 360, which is our 720. So this is a complete being. 7 plus 2 equals obviously the 9, of course. So we get the complete being here. And what this is explaining in this side is that you overlay that against the do, re, mi, fa, to, la, ti, do in terms of those tones. Yeah, you get the complete octave, don't you? So in the science of sound, right reasoning. Do you understand? So the complete octave in that regard. So the complete being, understand, as opposed to the incomplete being who has the 7 telomeres as opposed to the 8. And so this is what's being expressed here. Useful on the bottom of page 59 here is tick tock and the rest. You understand? So in this context, remember, as we spent a lot of time going into this in previous sessions, but remember, space, matter, and time are inseparable, aren't they? Yep. You can't have existence without space, matter, and time. This is the true free in one, or free as one, you know, saying concept that we're dealing with, existence. Yeah. So in the separating out, we can see that, yeah. And the magic, which we'll touch upon maybe a little bit later, more so, is the fact of, you understand, when you bring, yeah, matter and space by way of time into perfect union with each other, magical things happen. So remember, we spent a lot of time explaining to you about, you know, when we talk about music, for example, where that real power is, isn't it? Do you understand? Where you are, you know, the musician in fact is managing, yeah, the sound and non-sound, yeah, and whether it's pleasant or whether it's not pleasant is down to timing, isn't it? Yeah. So when somebody's drumming, for example, they are bringing, yeah, the matter, i.e. the sound, as the person hits the, you understand, as the person hits the drum, understood, with the space, so the non-sound, when the person's not hitting the drum, understood, they're bringing that into, obviously, into unison with what? Perfect timing. And the better the timing, understood, yes, is what we say, well, we like that sound oftentimes, you understand? Or magical things happen, yeah, when this is done in that regard. And this is a science and understanding how these 3 things come together. And we can see, look, the inferiority complex of the Mukasu is so prevalent, yeah, so such is their fear, that what's happened to the modern day clock. Yeah, the modern day clock has had the talk taken from the clock, isn't it? So the modern day clock, the modern day watch, what does it do? It just goes tick, 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 tick. It doesn't go what? Tick tock, like it used to do before. Yeah, with the space in between. Yeah, so we, even within the very clock, notwithstanding the fact that clockwise is anti-nature, because nature generally goes anti-clockwise, at least the illusion of it is. So the sun moves to those positions, Atun, Amun, it goes what? Anti-clockwise, it doesn't go clockwise. So everything they do is anti-nature, anti-Nathar, anti-us. Yeah, so this is the thing you have, taking the tick, or the talk out of the clock, throwing your timing even more off. Understood? Yeah, from how it should be according to natural nature, because your body's going to sink in with the time, isn't it? The time of the environment. Yeah, you know, sometimes most of you now, let's be honest, you don't even really need a watch to tell the time. Certain times you can be like, okay, boom, it's, you know what I mean? It could be 12 o'clock. Someone asks you what time it is. It's about 2 o'clock. And yeah, most of the time, most of you, if you're sort of in sync, you can get it right. You understand? Or you're certainly thereabouts. If you sort of, you know what I mean, on a certain day, you're sort of locked in, and you'll get the time right, pretty much right. So your internal clock, I'm saying, your sort of circadian rhythm, is locked into the timing in relation to the environment. So what if the timing's off? See what I'm saying? So when you first heard auto tune, let's be honest, it sounded off. It sounded off key. But then you keep hearing it all the time in the environment. You keep hearing it, keep hearing it. Now, what was off key sounds on key. And you forget what the previous on key was. Yeah, because there's so much off key in the environment. So your body will adjust. You understand? And particularly, we know how that game's played through, you know, some music, yeah, sound, cinema, yeah, television, so on and so forth, to keep you off frequency. So only with the knowledge of somebody from outside coming in to point out these facts, yes, would you know? Because if somebody didn't point out, you wouldn't know. You'd be none the wiser that these subtle changes have taken place. Which, as I say, if the talk, yeah, is being removed, then as advised, a certain point in time now that we're ignoring. We're not factoring in, you understand, to our not only just time management, you understand, but our time observation. Yes, so beings who work at these super fast speeds, or the speed of these etheric speeds, like the speed of your body works at, as obviously your body's not working, you understand, in terms of the speeds that your conscious mind would need. For example, if it was controlling, you know, say many of the functions within the body, it would be moving too slow. So the type of calculations that are taking place, you know, trillions, millions into the billions, into the trillions of actions taking place per second, understood, to give you what feels like a seamless perspective. You understand? Your eyes, there's no donut, you understand, that simply appears in front of your eyes because it's processing what you're seeing. Do you understand? So it's working at incredibly fast speeds, because what we're tuned into as the lowest denominator of time within the society as seconds. So how long is a second to etheric entities? And as the master explained, somebody can come, you understand, or extraterrestrials who are working, have the ability to work outside of our time, for example, yes, could snatch a person up outside of a room. Yeah, because how long is a second to even our own microscopic entities that are within us? That's a long time. Understood? So you can snatch a person out of the room, do whatever they're doing, and put them back, and no one even notice. Yeah, because they're moving between the tick, you understand? And the top got removed. So we're ignoring that bit. We only focus on the tick. So until the next tick comes, that's when we're sort of switching on. Subtly that's taken place, subliminally it's taken place. Understood? So these things become important. So you think again now, okay, well, our realignment back to matriarchal means that the gap that was missing is being plugged back again. Understand? Because we're accounting for the whole once again in terms of the tones of these cycles. Understood? So, excuse me. Any questions?
Yes, there's a question from Amuntat, and it says, the question says, is this why everyone feels that time is going too fast? as in the day appears to end too quickly?
Yes, great question. Great question. Yeah, as the master explained, is because, well, it's two ways. Yeah, that is related to that. What's happening is that the space, as expressed in the book Man from Planet Risk, the space between the tick and tock is shrinking. You understand? So in that book, he explained the fact that at what was an hour back then, for example, in the mid-90s, is now only 15 minutes. You understand? So this is why the perception of time, the perception is the issue, but also actual time as they record it is shrinking. You understand? But remember, we're still using the same. It's 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, etc. We're still using, for lack of a word, those same beat points of time. Do you understand? So they're still, as they refer to it, as the 24 hours within a day. But as I say, there is less time available because the universe is contracting. Do you understand? So the actual tick and the top, the space between it is smaller. You understand? So this is why you don't even realize. Well, some of you do realize. I used to be able to get, X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D done in a day. Yeah, and now if you don't hustle, yeah, you might get A and B done in a day. You understand? And that's because, and then now that's driving or affecting certain people's mental health. It's creating stress, different things of that nature. Technology, obviously, within the environment does also speed things up, as we've seen. Do you understand? From we used to do things back a certain way. Now technology has moved on. There's more events happening within a short period of time. So there's less time, and from a technological point of view, there are more things happening, but certainly within city environments or more busy environments, maybe less so in a kind of country environment, there are more things happening within a certain period of time. Do you understand? So yes, time is the feeling of time is shorter because there's less time, and then from the technology point of view, there's more events happening within that shorter period of time, and this can drive people, as we're seeing it, mentally insane, driving high levels of stress. Do you understand? Because things need to be done now, but the now of now is not the now of, you understand? 30 years ago, for example, there was less time between the tick and the top. Any other questions?
Not currently, no.
Okay, so yeah, let's touch upon this a little bit. So I think we're gonna cover it probably a bit later, so it's worth being aware. So so 332, for example, says the moment your personal zero time started to record you on the Me Stone, your disc. So that's Murad. I think this is a better word for that. Murad. A circular object with magnetic particles for storing computed data, outformation into information, your spiritual existence to your physical lifetime. So again, if people remember the class from back in the day or can seek out the class, I came to right the wrong. Yeah, these the master teacher touched upon these magnetic particles, you understand, and linked them to frequencies insofar as the fact that if you listen to music, for example, which is not in line with your own personal tone, so you obviously your personal tone arises from when the sperm hit the ovum. Do you understand? For you, that was your big bang to microscopic entities. You understand? And it created a certain tonation as a result of that, which is why you like the music you like, because the music you like has that tonation, understand, within the sounds of it. So there's a resonance and an alignment with the Big Bang that created you. Do you understand? So if we listen to music far off from that tone, for example, it can burn out these particular magnetic particles. So not going into too much detail around this, but if you remember, I think there's a series on Netflix called Altered Carbon. And some of you watched that, and it's obviously developed technology to defeat death, because the person, which basically the memories of the person, isn't it, could be extracted by a disc and then put into a new skin suit. We refer to it as obviously skin suit, but they would refer to that in that series as sleeves, if you remember. So people could become as a woman, they could be born as a white man, black man, and so various different lives. And depending on how much money you had, would depend on what kind of sleeve you could afford. Do you understand? Or whether you could then, have your memories extracted to put into a new body. So the technology surrounding that fiction is not really a fiction, but rather a reality of who you are and how, as I say, the aspects of you, like I suppose a hard drive in a computer, which how you use it, what documents you store in it, what pictures, etc., what music you have. For example, if for any reason the computer was damaged, the most important thing likely for you is going to be that hard drive, isn't it? You understand? Not necessarily all the mechanisms or the memory and all that. The most important thing is going to be the hard drive, because you can take the hard drive potentially and put it in another sleeve, i.e. another machine, which then gives you back, how your computer was before it got maybe the computer or the shell of it got damaged. Do you understand? So it's the same principle here, which is how we defeat death. You understand? Because that personal, line to your personal zero time reference, but the actual me stone itself, as part, for example, of the dimensional shift, which you're aware, which allows us, for example, to jump from here to our corresponding or linked planet Risk. You understand? As a planet goes through its own ascension journey, every 24,000 years, where it starts to align itself with higher states of energy. Do you understand? Which is making that transition to vibrate on the 7, 8, and 9 ether levels, being at 6 ether as it currently stands. Do you understand? So these characteristics, or that your personal disc or me stone, is where elders are basically able to then take that disc, transport you from one location to another, and then as the information that this is reinserted into a new sleeve, etc., then effectively you becomes you elsewhere. And obviously corrections can be made in that disc in a person's life, because glitches get created, for example, which I think was touched upon. We touched upon in a previous class, where you have regrets. Sometimes you get forks in the road. There's another term for it, I think they use in movies. Somebody might be able to put it in the chat. You get sort of fork in the road. So you could have gone A or down the B road or whatever, and maybe you chose the wrong one, which led to a lot of pressure, life pressure, and issues. Whereas had you gone down B road, you understand, it wouldn't have happened like that. So this sometimes can create corruption, minor corruptions on your disc, which have to be corrected before a person can move on, which is why one of the reasons where you may they can actually place you, the elders can place you back in that moment in time, for example. This is what's on the page here. So this is place you back in that moment in time, and then you can, instead of going down A, you can go down the B route to correct, because what happens is it causes damage to the disc. Understood? Yeah. So you see it here in verse 337 now. Yeah. So a misprint or mistake on the disc, so it has to be corrected. You understand? So this is, for us, a very important aspect of things that we don't know. It's the outformation that we don't know, which we've been informed about, much like, as I say, being informed about how the sexual process is more powerful than we realized. Well, you know, this disc that enables us to be able to reincarnate, you understand, and live multiple lives and beat death is an important part of our outformational existence here outside the normal scheme of things. Understand? So, excuse me. So yeah, you can read about that in your own time or seek out the scroll. In that regard to get more information. The interesting thing here, which I wanted to touch upon before we move to where we were, was the fact that the way this is being described in the birth cycle, it's talking about nine moon cycles. Understand? So you're born within 9 moon cycles. Yes, this is very important to kind of think in this context. Do you understand? It took 9 moon cycles before we were born. Do you understand? So as we explained earlier, you're a being in this environment, but we have to utilize these cycles to our advantage. Now the next level up from that is when we are being supreme in our being, or supreme beings, is when we have full understanding of these cycles, and as I say, we work within them, we use them to our advantage. It's not a thing that basically we're continually feeling that we're subject to, and this is a mentality shift for us that we have to take. Yeah, we have to program or be able, once we absorb this, science of Wu-Sabat and knowledge that the Master Teacher has given us. It's about reframing our mindset. You understand? And the power of doing that, because framing the person's mindset sets the how can I say? It sort of sets to some degree the purpose of how the subconscious and our mind can be utilized. You understand? Much more effectively. If you leave it open, yes, then others, and if you leave it open and we're ignorant, then others can set that framing, and then we're not living in our own mind, we're living in theirs. What do we mean by that? So, as we touched upon previously, the Master explained that the mind is like a field. Whatever you plant in it, it will grow. You understand? So, how you frame your mind, you understand, is going to be important of how the growth out of that is shaped, of what you cultivate. You understand? Now the rules are the rules. So you understand? And we've said this before, but if you think about a farmer in a field, if the farmer is, I don't know, growing poppy seeds or whatever, the poppies can be used, let's say, today in England, to be worn by people for Remembrance Day. You understand? In relation to the world wars that have taken place, and why we don't want them again, which some people may perceive as a positive use of the flower, or it can be used to make cocaine. You understand? So, which some might see as a not so positive use of the flower. The point is that the ground, there's no judgment in the ground. It's doing, you understand, what it's programmed to do. It's fulfilling its supreme or divine purpose. Do you understand? Insofar as it propagating with a lot of other different things happening. It's propagating life, isn't it? You understand? It's giving birth to things, which is what the soil is doing. Do you understand? Inherently, it supports that. So, in terms of your own mind, for example, if you frame it, let's say you want to learn about this doctrine, for example, Wu-Sabat. If you frame it with skepticism, obviously your mind is going to seek skepticism, going to seek the mistakes. Is that now? Should you be skeptical? Of course, You understand? You should be skeptical. You should always be seeking facts. You should always seeking proof. You understand? But there's a difference between skeptical to disprove what's there, or being skeptical for understanding. You understand? So, in one sense, not to add on, but you can create your own two-edged sword, almost in a sense, where you use your inner skeptic to question things that you're accepting, so that basically it shores up, what you know, or keeps what you know being factual. You understand? So you're testing your inner skeptic against yourself, but you're not reading in a way where to disprove the whole thing. There's reading as a skeptic to disprove, or you can read for overstanding. You understand? And still use your inner skeptic to aid your overstanding. So if you frame your mind for overstanding, then you'll get overstanding. If you frame your mind for skepticism, then what you're going to get? You're going to get skepticism. Do you understand? Now, my point is, we should frame our mind for skepticism for those who have proven themselves to be damaging to our people. But our mind was framed, isn't it? Or programmed in a way that those people are good. It's only the bad apples that are the problem. You understand? But history doesn't teach us that. So something in us programmed to love those who are other than self and kind, and hate those who were of self and kind. You understand? Those, that framing within our genes, and that hate for self is still within us even today. You understand? It's something that's going to have to be almost bred out of us. And Wu-Sabat obviously helps, but a lot of us still reverting back to those old spell-like and spell-bound behaviors. Do you understand? So I'm saying framing, how you program, you understand, your capabilities and your faculties is exceptionally important. This is why this doctrine is what it's informing. It's informing, isn't it? It's shaping you. So as I think in the previous trial said, you don't learn Wu-Sabat. Wu-Sabat learns you. So Wu-Sabat, or nine ether, is reframing not only your physical body, but how you think. How, you understand, you set that mind environment. Understand? So when the seeds are planted, do you grow them? You understand? For your own personal elevation. Or when the seeds are planted in your soil, do you turn it into self-destruction? Do you turn it to, in a sense, instead of it to be a seed that grows unity amongst your people? You understand? You sow the seeds, now you've converted it into behaviors that you're growing disunity, dissension, you understand? Doubt. Not propagating facts, which gives confidence. Understand? Which strengthens one's foundation. Understood? That everybody else may seem to have, even on their lies, their foundation built on lies, which works for them, but it doesn't work for us. Do you understand? So we must cultivate the things within the environments and the cycles that optimize and work for us. And this is why certain cycles, as you're going to learn about, remember, it sways, isn't it? Between the positive and the negative. And the true incarnated masters, you understand, you can't change the rules of the environment, or the rules of existence. You can't change them, but a higher master obviously knows, for example, to apply the rules of a higher plane to a lower plane. So if we were going to come supreme again, we have to understand, or we had to work ourselves up, isn't it, to the point where we could trust this man whose freckles were too close, at least to a point where, okay, I'm willing to learn the things that I don't know. You understand? Because when it's a black man, as we said earlier, because of the spell, or woman, we question everything. But when it was the white man, we didn't question. We just accepted. And look at where that got us. Leading us down a path of self-destruction. Do you understand? And it left us with self-hate continuing within us. So here we see 333 says tick is that first spark of life. It is the vacuum space inside the female uterus and the male scrotum, and the top is the first beat of the child in the raham womb. You understand? 333 as the womb, paraham, the womb, the yielding. Yeah, so when it obviously when it fully expands to the point where it can't expand no more, it must immediately contract and then release what was previously the egg inside of her. Now it's expanded so much it must yield now to become its own universe, its own son, as you see in the Partak Yud. You understand? The all is I am. You understand? That's also part of that yielding. You understand? In the woman, the all is, i.e., the woman is the all. Yes, and then she produces this and other to become the I am. Then the I am looks back and sees that the woman is not all, but the all within all. You understand? Because that was a version of existence that birthed us. Understand? So we come to this and because when we was inside the womb, it was all to us, and then we come to realization. You understand? That's not all. It was the all. So therefore, I became. Do you understand? I am. And so you realize that in that context, as the yielder. You understand? Now, what do they call? As you see there in the Islamic religion, they talk about Allah being what? The yielder and the most merciful. Realizing that it's talking about the woman. But let's do 334. As the womb is the paraham, the womb, the yielding, as it is received, the male's penis opening the gate until the feminine's ninth yarak moon, parahamur, the yielder, as the raham womb expands to yield the head of the newborn to pass through the birth canal or ka'anail. Interesting. Into this world, and its wakut time starts in this dawar cycle, be it the first or the 24th of 24,000 dawarat cycles of life. You understand? So obviously these are the strands that enable a person to seek really to master a level of perfection before they move on to the higher levels of existence. You understand? But here we can see that, those cycles, we're locked in, isn't it? The cycles are locked in. So when the child is born, ideally, you understand, if not to be defective in any way, it's going to be 9 moon cycles. You must have, for example, 6 cycles before you can even birth a child. So after the first period, there must be 6 cycles, for example, before a child can even be conceived. Not that you want people to be having children that young. You understand? But nature has these triggers and rules in place, do you understand? Which we were so in tune, or wanted to be so in tune, desired to be so in tune, to not be away or any kind of disconnect between us and our nathar. Understood? And this is the kind of journey that we're having to get back to as supreme beings. You understand? Working within the cycles. You understand? Time waits for no man or woman in that regard. It is what it is. So if you miss sort of key things, certain times in life, there's no do-overs. There's no opportunity to do it again, or there is sometimes. It can be it might be another 24,000 years before that set of events within the cycle happens again. Do you understand? So we have to start to really understand what is taking place in and around us. Okay, cool. All right, let's move on to where we really wanted to get into today. So a bit of a recap there to set us up nicely. So any questions?
Yes, there's a question, and this question refers to when you were speaking about the perceived shortening of time. And this is a question from Munaza. The question is, should we be adapting to the shrinking time in any certain ways, such as raising our vibrations?
Yeah, interesting question. Good question. Thank you for that. So it's not that you can't really adapt. I suppose what you, in understanding what it means, is that not necessarily spiritually changing, but I suppose you have to adapt your life in terms of how you use those 24 hours, because you haven't got the same amount of time. So if you're thinking, well, I can do these 9 tasks because I used to do them before, that's when you start to go crazy, because now you can't really do the 9. Maybe you can only do 3. So how you manage your time, in terms of your organizational skills. So talk about in masonry, for example, they talk about the 24-inch gauge. You understand? And it's symbolic of how a mason, with the first tool, the gavel, you understand, has to reshape their being, you understand, to fit whatever, 8 hours of rest, 8 hours of taking care of business, then 8 hours of sleep. So how you need to then reframe your being, you need to become maybe a bit more organized in terms of how you utilize that time. That's how you adjust. Now you know to the shift. You understand? So some things may require you to plan better in advance. You understand? So that make sure you're not late with things. You understand? So we know, for example, if we're here in the Midlands, for example, and we may have thought, when I travelled to London previously, because I said I'm travelling to London for a meeting, I may have had to, I may have done that in 1.5 hours, 2 hours. Do you understand? But now you may need to plan that out a bit better to the same amount of things that you thought that you were doing previously. You might have to double that time to make allowances if you're going to get there on time. You understand? But in your perception of mind, it's going to take me 2 hours, and then you arrive in 3.5 hours. Do you understand? So it just really is a prompt to us, not only to be better organized, but also that maybe you can't get the same amount of things done in the same day. So you need to think that through rather than driving yourself crazy, not achieving the same things that you thought previously that you could achieve. Do you understand? Naturally, tuning in will happen with your spiritual practice, and your body's going to tune in to the environment. You don't really have too much choice around that unless you take yourself out of the environment, which is obviously what we sought to do with Tamaray, and introduce, as I say, a new timing system that wasn't based upon the emission of the tick. You understand? It was continuous time within that restored. But I say, to do that in this day and time, we would need to create a new Tamaray, which obviously we have to do for our own salvation, one would say, and then reintroduce back that clock so we could live by it, and then obviously develop the skills and abilities to make watches, if that's what we're going to use, and other mechanisms. Sundials is obviously one way to reintroduce back natural time again. Do you understand? That we could live by in a busy society, wherever you live. If you're here, you understand, in sort of Midlands or London, or if you're in New York or big cities like Atlanta and these different types of places, you're going to not be subject to the time because you're not the one controlling the environment and the various different frequencies that are being pumped in, etc., etc. So it's twofold. One, be more organized for survival, or be realistic about what you're doing and your plans with the time that's available. And secondly, or long-term aspiration, is that we have to be in environments where we're controlling what the time is, and how we calculate time. Any other questions?
No other questions.
Okay, right. So we went through death, and we wanted to start at 355. You understand? So I didn't go through that in detail because we've done it in previous class. So check out the previous classes or seek out a Master Secret course. Master Secret referred to as the spiritual you after the physical you dies, or seek out the book, the proof from your nearest Wise in Egypt store. So let's crack on with 335. So Nawapu. If it's Nawab, I'm gonna say Musbatu or Sabians. Yeah, just to round that up. So Musbatu, Sabians. There are many paths in death. The final is to enter the Chamemnos, blackness of all eternal Ashuk divine love. No physical you need, yet you and your earnings are still with you as a Ba'a soul, being, Ifrik, and you're joined with all loved ones and return to higher Tapalat worlds to meet and be the first Natharu. And be with first Natharu and only some to meet with Mozaku, the providers. There is no time, no death, only being. You understand? So here, which clearly our ascension pathway and what we're seeking, you understand, or what we really need to manage as a nine ether being in the physical, you understand, is to achieve this goal at the point of death. So death is a doorway to the eternal for us, and that is really living, you understand, not premature death. So not just to make it absolutely super clear, you understand. So I think right, and Habab read a saying, you understand, that about suicide. You understand, it linked it to smoking. So suicide is something obviously frowned upon. It triggers certain adverse rules in place. So if you cause your own death thinking, hey, maybe I get to elevate a little bit quicker because life feels a bit challenging, do you understand? Well, you won't make it to this particular pathway. You'll be returned back and face certain challenges if you killed, you understand, another human being as you taking your own life. Now, obviously, yes, we understand some people have mental illnesses and different things of that nature, but just making absolutely clear, for the avoidance of doubt, that killing yourself to seek an easier, higher life, that pathway is not the pathway you want to take. So, dying naturally or dying in a manner, let's say, that's not suicide, is obviously what you're seeking to achieve, to now live as soul. You understand? So live as a soul being or etheric being, whereas you're a combination of both physical and etheric in this world, rendering you an etheric being now. Do you understand? And so the various different stages that you go through from life, so 0 to 40 is your first stage. Excuse me, 0 to 40 is our first stage. You understand? When you get to 40, you're truly an adult. You understand? And they refer to that, or some refer to that as you being a prophet, because you're able to speak to the younger young people or children and predict by way of their behaviors, because you've had a certain level of experience. If they follow down a particular path, this will happen. You understand? Now, if you don't experience the right level, if you don't experience the right level of experience or different types of experience, then those triggers might not hit for you to have that kind of transformation into adulthood. So you can get some very childish, 41, 42-year-olds, for example, because maybe their experiences have not hit those triggers at those points. So 0 to 40, first stage. 40 to 80, is really your adulthood. And then when a person has gone from 80 now to that next phase, the third, or 120, when you hit 80, you are transitioning over to the spiritual. Do you understand? So you're really getting prepared, do you understand, for that transition stage at that point. Do you understand? You've already kind of made it over. And if you think about the way, and we talked about this previously, but the way your physical body changes in relation to that. So we started off, as you remember, in the waters of this, prior to arriving at this planet, but then when placed in the waters of this planet, we were hermaphrodites, and hermaphrodite, so neutral gender beings, who then split out, obviously, as a race into unisex beings, i.e. male and female. Do you understand? In that regard. So as a man, what happens? What makes you male, is your, I suppose, the presence of testosterone in your body. You understand? And as you get older, so you're producing testosterone and estrogen. So all males are males, but they also have female inside of them, as all women are women, but they have male inside of them. Do you understand? And so if we think about ourselves chemically in that regard, what males will produce, obviously, an excess amount of testosterone, you understand? But when you get to a certain age, isn't it, past 40, what happens? Your testosterone, starts to reduce, you understand, and becomes more balanced with the amount of estrogen. So over time, you're changing back into the more neutral being as you originally were. Same thing happens with women, isn't it? Your estrogen levels start to deplete, which is what makes you more woman, and then it balances up with your testosterone. So by the time you get to 80, you're more of a neutral gender being. We've started off one way and we come full cycle, you understand, into a neutral gender being. This is why, if you remember, in the ancient Egyptian order, when you saw both male and females of the order, the uniform that they were dressed in was gender neutral. You understand? That was controversial in this day and time, the way it's used, but meaning to say, it reflected the fact that there's obviously a difference between male and female, but as in our spiritual sense, in our etheric sense, remember, there's no gender discussion when you talk about the context of us etherically. You understand? So as we prepare for that transformation, there's no gender conversation. We're dealing with energy in the context of a person being a being. You understand? So gender comes in when we just talk about physicality, genes, you understand, XY chromosomes, so on and so forth. Do you understand? So you can see, if we're paying attention to the cycles, these cycles that are taking place of growth, that we come full circle towards the end to become, as I say, as we elevate back to becoming Nathar once again. Do you understand? And so, why is that important? Is because when you look at the various different orders, they're aligned to these shifts or stages in our ascension journey. Do you understand? So original masonry for us would have been linked into, you understand, when you became a man. You understand? So i.e. when you first wet dream, and managing you through that process. Same on the feminine side. When it comes to the menstrual cycle. Do you understand? So you're following, the orders are designed to help the person as elevate at the right time, or be at the relevant, appropriate stage. So when these natural shifts or cycles happen, obviously you optimize the change, isn't it? You understand? As opposed to reacting to it, you're proacting to it to take advantage of what the change or the shift has to offer. And depending on how you have managed your life before will show, isn't it? How, or maybe determine how successful that next phase is going to be. Do you understand? And then this is life, isn't it? Let's keep it 100. If you mess up your first 40 years or whatever, and you don't make certain provisions, don't put certain things away, then when you get to 40, the next 40 could be quite tough. Do you understand? But here they have it in this society. Well, when you do what you need to do for your retirement, isn't it? Your pension or state's 401k or whatever it's called. You understand? So those things are the focus, isn't it? To whatever. So have a so-called easier life, depending on how you use your school life. You understand? Post-school into this. Understood? But this is talking about life. You understand? How you manage if those, I'm not saying to say those things are not important. You still have to work within your environment. But they don't teach you about this aspect of your, you understand? Your journey to where you're inheriting the higher life. Understand? Not just talking about some person's version of heaven or whatever, or hell, which really and truly is based on things which are here and one could achieve if they had sufficient financial power to make them happen. Do you understand? But this is about us. And when we look up into the night sky, you see the evidence of the eternal in the form of the blackness. That's that, which all things obviously, or where things become some things out of that blackness. Do you understand? And so you have that link to that. So read with care. You understand? Absorb it to what you're really fighting for. When times get tough, for you think, man, this damn journey. You understand? I'm sick of, you know what I mean? The whatever. McDonald's have brought out a new pork sandwich, which is appealing. You understand? Think about sacrificing that. You know what I mean? For more things that you're going to inherit in life afterwards. And not that you mustn't live life today. Do you understand? This is not what this is saying. It's just saying that you got to manage both aspects. You got to manage all aspects of you. Do you understand? So you have an etheric aspect of you, and you have a physical aspect of you, and you need to do your etheric press ups. Do you understand? To make sure you're fit and ready, for the next level of existence. Otherwise, you won't elevate or transform in the way in which many won't. And the site is set up to take advantage of your energy if you don't. You understand? So you know the path that you want to really be on. Now, 356. And as for the cursed seed of Canaanites, the Adamites, Canaanites, Sephites, and the Innersites, who have become many sub-races who are marked. So the three root races, remember, are the Negroid, the Caucasoid, and the Mongoloid. Three root races left from the original 24. Now, it says it becomes sub-race. So some of the people that you're seeing around, I think we went to this again in the previous session, many people are more sub-races than they are original root races, which I'm saying on the planet today. Now, it says who are marked. So once they die, they enter the white light back here as trapped spectres, spirit ghosts, unable to raise any higher for 1,000 Shamatat years, then freed only for a short time, then dissipate into nothingness, gone forever. So you've got 9 ether beings, with an ascension pathway, and then you've got ghostational beings who have their own ascension pathway, but it doesn't give the ability for reincarnation, doesn't give the ability to reset, only for pain, exploitation of that pain afterwards. And so the feeding of the forces will seek to have you end up like they are as an etheric battery, do you understand, as opposed to your, let's say, inherited destiny by way of your genetic agreement, you understand? So of you being able to achieve any state of existence that you want to, that's your pathway. The pathway is not to be exploited by other beings. So if you live like them, understand, want to be them, understand, not want to be like Mike, but want to be like Adam, you understand, the red and ruddy Adam, let's say, for example, and your pathway is different. And I say the society is set up to exploit and place you in a position where you become a feeder for their forces. You become an etheric battery for their lower vibrational rate beings from zero up to 6 ether. You understand? And so, as we were talking about primarily through these classes, how look who's making money off of our pain, which is being called entertainment, or our humiliation, because these things drive what? An emotional response, obviously, in us. We're exerting or we're feeding energy, but who's picking up that energy? Who's it feeding? Who's collecting it? Who's it benefiting? Who's it servicing? Yeah, these are the questions that the actual fact feeding the forces is saying, hey, listen, look, yeah, where they set you up in certain environments, be it nightclubs, be it, you understand, cinema. I'm not saying don't have fun or don't do these things. I'm saying that it's driving a certain emotional response, and something's feeding that response. And people are making money off of our pain. People are making money off of our suffering. Yeah. So yeah, but in the wrong type of way. Money, moon, the key. Excuse me. Key to the moon cycle, but it's diversion of our energies, you understand, away from us into feeding others, whether it's monetary exploitation, but more importantly for us is the energy exploitation. You understand? It's the equivalent of you paying the, you understand, your utility bills in your house, overstood, and your neighbor, yeah, as somewhere somehow plugged into, yeah, ran some kind of cable and plugged into your electricity, or you know what I mean, somehow it's plugged into your Wi-Fi. You're paying for it, but you understand, they're feeding, excuse me, off of the energy and getting free Wi-Fi. They're feeding off the energy and getting free utility off of things that you're paying for. Understood? And so when you start to realize that you are the only real true source of energy, there's only real one source of energy. You're the real source of energy, and others are going to have to feed off of you in order to sustain themselves. You have the power, obviously, to decide, well, who is going to get fed and who's not getting fed. You understand? And certainly what we have been tricked into doing is feeding forces that work. Their whole purpose and being is to work for our destruction. You understand? So how do you understand? Cut the tap off, so to speak. You're saying cut the cable. Yeah, you have to make a distinction first, and then we can decide how we're going to care and love who we dictate who is with us. If they're with us, you don't have to necessarily be of our race. If they're with us, respect our doctrine, you understand? Respect our way of life, so on and so forth. Then yeah, they're one of us. Come. We embrace. You understand? But if you're not of us, understood, and empower systems that work against us, then we have to find ways of cutting off the power. And one of the reasons why we're not elevating is because we don't use our spiritual powers to deal with our enemies. But we're quite happy to use our spiritual powers to deal with people who look like us. You know what I'm saying? Give them grief. Yeah, but clearly you must pray, yeah, or when you're making your request to your ancestors, you have to have your protection in place. And sometimes that means, listen, that witch, you understand, whoever who's making my life chaotic day by day by day, listen, grandmother, great granny, help me out with this situation. Help me out with this people who's causing me stress. You understand? And put the protections in place to remove certain forces, you understand, which are draining energy from you. Yeah, draining energy from you, which is going to, of course, affect your ability to elevate. You understand? So, you know how our ancestors think. You understand? Barnatharu, listen, they don't forgive, they don't forget. So, that's our deity's mentality, not turn the other cheek. It's, listen, we don't forgive, we don't forget. Yeah, that's why at the time people didn't mess with them, innit? Or if they messed with them, there was consequences. Do you understand? Yeah, whether it's the Titanic, yeah, and when you read the prayers of protection, then they're not. It's not. Listen, take out the person who caused me the problem. It's take out the family, take out their mom, their dad, their children, their future children, wipe the whole line out of existence. That's how they That's how they play. Yeah, so had we had the ability and knowledge to take out a few of those kidnappers, yeah, maybe we might not be in the situation today, but we were open-hearted, isn't it? We were like, hey, come, let's see how we can help you, thinking all human beings are the same, yeah, or similar nature. You understand? Now, how many indigenous people around the planet have paid for that? Not only their lives, but their, you understand, the future generations' lives. Go and watch that film, what it, Killers of Flower Moon. Yeah, as a reminder, you understand, of what they will do. If you're not them, then as far as they're concerned, you're up for exploitation. Do you understand? So certain times, the reality of us having the, you know, the adverse, whatever you want to call it, Anunnaki genes, as well as the Nefaru genes inside us, and now even today we've got Mukasu genes and others. Well, you have to learn. Yeah, we understand in nature, and so you must protect yourself against it also. Do you understand? Can't just be naive and live the world that you want to live. Do you understand? You got to treat people sometimes how they meet you. Do you understand? And so that means being fully powered and using your powers and directing your energy accordingly, not for stupid stuff. You understand? But and use it responsibly, but use the power accordingly, because it's being worked against you and you don't even realize it. Yeah, as our good-hearted nature, but our good-hearted nature must also not mean being, I don't know, exchanging, I don't know, laziness might be too strong a word, but failure to apply spiritual powers against those who need it, you understand? Or those who may try to come in the future, you also need to be dealing with them, you understand? And so if you don't switch those powers on, if you don't make the request, you are the etheric and the physical being, you understand? So you must make the request. You must put the, you know what I mean? You must plug in the plug into the wall. Yeah, you must switch it on, understood, and program and power it and do all those things. If you could have, just because you have a fridge in the house, yeah, if you don't plug it in, it's not a fridge. It is a fridge, but it's not working, is it? It's not fulfilling its purpose. So you have to do the things necessary, connect, and then, you understand, use it accordingly. Put your ancestors to work. That's what they're there for. That's what they want to do. They want to aid you. They want to help you, because aiding them is helping us, isn't it? So that we've got sustainable, powerful entities that can guide us when we reach those higher states of being. You understand? Must continue the cycle, understood, of empowering or directing our powers from here, the physical, up to those higher levels of 7, 8, and 9 ether beings. This is the journey where we're going to. So we're building forward. Same way you have to do in life. Yeah, the better you build forward, in theory, but in principle, I suppose, and your life should be easier, depending on some of the decisions that you make with that time. If you misuse the time, you don't use it properly, you don't use it accordingly, you live a reactive, you understand, more so way of life. You know yourselves, most of adults on this call, yeah, life is harder in the reactive, living reactive than proactive. Yeah, so in that regard, you understand how it's used in the society today. You understand? So obviously, clearly, as something mastering in life, use a combination of both. Understood? But we do a lot less of the pre, yeah, than we do the re. And so this is what causes us problems. Understand? And so when you think about the physical life that you are living right now, yes, what you put into it esoterically, what you put into it spiritually, do you understand? You're going to benefit, obviously, after, when you live as soul. Understood? Yeah? And different races on the planet have a different pathway, because they have a different makeup. Yeah, the Yaanuwn and the Mukasu doesn't have the same characteristics now, because they lost them. Do you understand? So this is what's being expressed in this set of verses here. Any questions?
Yes, there's a question that says, can you repeat the consequences or what is to follow if someone killed themselves? I couldn't hear.
Okay, so to take one's own life is the same as obviously taking, excuse me, of taking a physical life. So the rules of taking one's life obviously kick in. Do you understand? So it would halt a person's ability to elevate and potentially. One sec. So potentially, what will take place is that you could end up in a several different cycles, not only of reliving how you took your own life, but then being born back into the world again in various different guises. So you could be reborn as the mother whose child commits suicide, so that you experience it from that perspective, or the father, you understand, or a friend. So all these different permutations, you can be born to experience the impact, you understand, of that decision. So it's not a pathway. The point being made, it's not a pathway to, let's say, elevation. So people think, okay, well, if I take my life now, I can then step up to this higher life. No, it would carry the consequences of taking a life. This is why I think it was said, well, smoking, if it takes 6 minutes of your life, then is that a form of, I think that the saying was saying that if you do things to that you know, for example, are self-destructive, is that a form of suicide? I think it was caused us to think in that way. So no, suicide is not a thing to. Yeah, I know they tried to water it down in this society. Like someone takes their life, there's no kind of judgment on the person in that regard. But yeah, it's not something that you want to do. One moment, please. One moment. Yeah, sorry about that. Any questions? Any further questions?
No further questions.
Okay. So making this point, just I think finishing about this, and it's re-emphasizing something we've gone through before, but just re-emphasizing this point about the way things are set up to take advantage of our ignorance. Understood? There's just following on in these last few verses before we close out, and then we'll continue next week. So we've seen that their pathway is, dissipation, torture or torment, and dissipation. Yeah, and 357, in what their bodies call for their spirit eternal fire, because Adamites don't have souls, just as Huanat animals and the bat beast, they live by body, spirit, and instinct only. 358, Fatir al-Fatar, natural nature, has its rules of life and living, death and dying for all Shayanat things, again, not by faith by fate. We was exploring this earlier with the telomeres. Yeah, so it's not to do, and then obviously about the soil example, it's not to do with moralistic decisions as you would maybe classify them as, but the more so the rules of the rules within existence. Yeah. 359. The Adamites are an interruption in natural nature. He was made, grafted, cloned, unnatural nature. 360. Many subraces and many Negroes will also be trapped or encaged in a spirit orb or and ghost form with the Adamites because they worship the image of this Wu-Sabat beast in human forms, a master deceiver, the devil, the dragon, the old Satan and his angelic beings. Genesis 3:24. Yeah, Moloch was the name, Moloch or Milcom. Yeah, various quotes there. 361. The cherubim in Arabic, Karabuna cherubim in Arabic, Karabuna, in Hebrew, Karubim, the Ikiki, fallen 200 emissaries of Enlil, son of Anu, the leader of the Anunnaki, yeah, called their Most High. Yeah, God, Psalms 82, verses 1 to 8. They have deceived the whole Tapal world, pretending to be God. Ezekiel 28:2, 9, 14, 16, and the first Anu. Yeah, Anu, the Most High incarnate form. Remember, we were talking about this. Remember in the last class that's the whole trick, isn't it? You understand that the devil is God and God is the devil. Do you understand that they're one and the same beings? Understood? Yeah, we've manipulated human beings, but we're just talking about a group of extraterrestrials, which for us, looking at it, is a case of, well, leaving all of that monotheistic trash, to be honest, alone, not to be offensive to everyone in the call, but leaving it alone. Do you understand? Yes, why do we teach it? Why do you think? Because you can see how the game is played and how it was played out. But if you'd never encountered it, you wouldn't be sick from it. You understand? Because you're sick from it. Now you need an antidote to cure the sickness because of the way it's tricked your mind or your perception of what God is or your perception of what the Most High is, etc., etc. When obviously beings with higher knowledge have coerced and manipulated and continue to manipulate human beings to their own nefarious purposes. Do you understand? And so these 204 angels, obviously, or emissaries, who were trapped here because they broke the rules according to their book. Remember in Genesis chapter 6, where they interacted with the daughters of men, was a violation of their own rules. Do you understand? And obviously in the other book of Enoch, you get the more detailed story of what you only get a brief summary of in obviously Genesis chapter 6 about those sons of God who came down. Do you understand? So in the Sumerian tablets, in the book of Enoch, you get a more detailed breakdown of what took place. So their punishment, understood, was that their bodies were removed and then their spirit, the spiritual aspects of them, or spirit entities, were trapped here. And part of what the Caucasians go through when they die is they are tortured, obviously, by these 200 fallen angels, which feed off of their energy. You understand? To obviously sustain themselves. So if they get one of us in there, well, you understand, this is like the whatever. It's a Duracell times a million. Do you understand? In terms of the etheric energy that's stored, obviously, there to be fed upon. Understood? So, as you understand, in Holy Tablets, in chapter 7, it teaches you that just remember the fact that in our own physical bodies, that there was a soul within that being. The residual energy can last up to 1,000 years. Do you understand? So this is how powerful of our etheric energy is, and this, as we've said many times in this class before, the black man and woman, or black woman and man, do not understand the true value of the soul. They don't understand it. So they don't know what other races or other entities will do to get a piece of it. Do you understand? Or to inherit it. You understand? Or to stop you from elevating with it. Yeah, you don't know the value outside of, you understand, some religious interpretation or book. You don't know the value of who you are, you understand, or the value of even your relationship to your ancestors and how it's coveted and so on and so forth. Yeah, so you don't value it, you don't take advantage of it. You don't value in this society the things in life that have the most value. And that's because there's a contradiction, isn't there? The best things in life, or the most valuable things in life, are free. Yeah, so it gives the impression that when you get something for free, innit? Yeah, free denotes, or free can denote that it had no value because it was given to you. Yeah, you didn't have to pay for it. Understood? But in this world, the actual things that are free in actuality have the most value. They have the highest value possible. Yeah, because they preserve and propagate life, isn't it? It's the sun, air we breathe, yeah, fresh water, all the things, you understand, which nature provides, or you understand, by way of the Rozaku, the providers. They provide the things which are free, but the contradiction is they have the most value. Yeah, but we didn't have to pay some, for it. But if you don't respect it, you'll pay in the long term for it. You understand? So in that regard. So let's finalize this page. So we see here that, and if you read these quotes, they're basically breaking down for you that the hidden mystery of what their God or God is, because it's a singular, but in actuality, when you look in the language, it's plural. And then the fact that these terminologies or titles, these titles are simply ranks within an army. Do you understand? So the fact that God is a title, or Most High, or Lord, these are ranks. Like you have a colonel, understand, a general, a field general, understand, a sergeant. This is a ranking system, do you understand, within the hierarchy, which I say was never explained to you because you're not really reading. You're reading the translation. You're not really reading the Sumerian tablets, which goes into the various different entities of who is occupying these seats. You understand? But actually, if you read like a Psalms 82, verse 1 to 8, for example, and then you basically go and overlay, if you're in America, for example, how your Congress is set up, or if in the UK, you look at how Parliament is set up, this is exactly what you're reading about. You understand? As I say, the Most High is high amongst, you understand, or the minister or the prime minister is what? It's prime amongst other ministers. This is what you're reading about if you really go into Psalms 82 and see that. You understand? Prime minister in England or UK is amongst ministers. You understand? Actually, when you break it down, you can hear it in the language, can't you? Many stars. Yeah, so it's all, it's all based upon our system that we had or have in ancient Egypt reimagined, understand, or retaught back to us in this day and time as Wu-Sabat to make that connection. But it's all based on our systems, you understand, as children of the Nathar, and how we lived our life here on earth as Wu-Sabat and our connection to the stars. It's all mimicked off of that. And certain things have real power and certain things have fake power, meaning to say they're plugging into your power, obviously, in order for them to propagate as if they're powerful. Yeah, but if you cut that power source off from them, they would be powerless. 362. The first son, Inki, and his emissaries, the Dingir or Seraphim, the agreeable angelic Mokwanu beings, both can take on human form or shapeshift into other forms at will. 363. These two brothers by different mothers, sons of Anu, hate each other, and their sons also. This is the Bible. The good angels, bad angels, good God, bad God, good and evil, agreeable and disagreeable, who came to this planet seeking to rule their creations. The Adamu Salah, Adamite race and sub-races with their mark or damam, blood in them. They have a choice, one or the other, as they claim to worship only one, no other. That is what they mean. The God they trust with their lives. Yeah, in God we Adamites trust. One nation, nationality, Adamites under God. And it gives you a breakdown here of what God means. G for government, O ordinance, D Department of Justice. Yeah, really Gad, Odin, and Dagon. You understand? Different gods, obviously. Excuse me. Within the different cultures. You understand? And as we've said before, Gad, as you see, the god of wealth and fortune. Yeah, and how you are tricked. Yeah, as also one of the sons of Jacob. Yeah, because the word Gad, yeah, is synonymous with the word guard, G-U-A-R-D. You understand? And how for wealth and fortune, you see our people constantly jumping in front and defending them. You understand? Defending them as their God. So the real God of the Bible is the Caucasian, yeah, the Adamite race, yeah, who we, as I say, worship. Yeah, they have us worshipping with its Bible, Quran, you understand? The Torah is worshipping them, understood, and their sub races, having us subservient to their God. Look at the situation. I think with I don't know, for people who watch sports or whatever, I'm on the back is what end of it. But I think there was Stephen A. Smith, a controversial character, but Stephen A. Smith, I think, was had basically fired Max Kellerman, who was his white counterpart, taking him off of his show. Yeah, off of ESPN. They used to run a sports show together, and he fired him. And when people asked him about it, he's talking about, well, it wasn't working. I got rid of him because the chemistry wasn't right. Now, the reason why I say that is because a number of other black men, whether you like Stephen A or don't like Stephen A, is to the side a little bit, really. But other black men were jumping out, defending Max Kellerman from the way Stephen A was talking about him. Now, the point I am saying here is that Max Kellerman is a multi-millionaire white guy. He's not in shortage of being able to defend himself if he needs to. So why not leave Max Kellerman to defend himself if he wants to deal with what Stephen A. Smith is saying about it? Why are you, as another black person, jumping in front to argue with another black person about the white guy who has not raised his own voice to speak for and defend himself? Yeah, because you're programmed. It's part of the programming. Yeah, to defend. Yeah, to defend God. Yeah, or to guard the Caucasian. Yeah, see, guard, like the Americans say, guard. There's that out in New York, guard. Yeah, God and God and Gad is the same. You understand? So for wealth and fortune, because they think that he's got it, you will defend. You understand? Right? People will defend the Caucasian, but when they're in trouble, yeah, their defenders, their God is nowhere to be seen. Yeah, and they're subject to, yeah, what you understand? Their will when they want to take away that wealth or give it, you understand, in this day and time particularly. Yeah, if you fall foul, say the wrong thing, yeah, they remove that comfortable, seemingly rug of protection away from you in an instant. Do you understand? No matter how much you sold out your people, yeah, or sold out your people for that wealth and fortune. Do you understand? If they're ready to drop you, they drop you. You understand? So this is very important about the distinction and how, as I say, you're getting caught up, or our people are getting caught up in the fake game of good and evil. Do you understand? When the good God and the evil God is on, you understand? They're one and the same groups of people. You understand? And that's the trick, isn't it? That one is telling you, the good God is telling you, yes, smoking is legal. Yeah, so that's the good God, because the good God is allowing something that's self-destruction, but calling it legal. But the evil or the evil God, you understand, is the one selling crack. So that's evil, you understand? But then at the same government forces or whatever, they were allowing the drugs into the country, understood to be sold in certain communities. You see with depictions or fictional depictions like Snowfall and other things of that nature. So you've got evil God and the good God on both sides of negativity to us. You understand? And this is what's being explained. There isn't a good side on that side for us. You understand? So this is what the problem is, and how and why those forces. There has to be a clear distinction between what 9 ether is and 6 ether and ghostational forces is, even though because of the problems through rape, kidnap, mixing, so on and so forth, and even our own decision making, we have both inside of us. Okay, on that note, I think it's a good time to pause until next Sunday, which is the next class. Any questions?
Yes, there is a question from Amuntat, and the question is there a connection with the word worship to worship? Because they are always warring. Also, when they are praising Lord, does it relate to God government, as in House of Lords?
So, the first part of the question, sorry, remind me again. What's the first part of the question again?
Yeah, is there a connection with the word worship to worship? Because they are always warring.
Yeah, so obviously, yeah, the word worship and worship are synonymous. So really, the word worship, remember, it relating to the version of the Crystal City or Nibiru. Remember that it's coming for them, which they didn't realize was the rapture. So their rapture, which is synonymous with the word raptor, was coming for them as food. Yeah, the 144,000, I think, is a sort of classify it as is the return of the being Nana, and saying his name means master of fire, who is the one being talked about in Isaiah chapter 14 verse 12. Him, they're Jesus, etc. They're all one and the same character, understood. And so that worship is the one returning back, or their form of worship is, and their savior is them coming back, or these entities, Anunnaki coming back to feed off of them as food. This is what you read in Revelation chapter 19, and it's verse 17, going into that detail. We understand the food for the gods is really what that worship relates to, as opposed to the peace ship, which for us is that Manjet Ra. You understand, talking about our elevation journey, where ancestors are coming back around for us as their children, who they place those entities here to grow and evolve in the waters of this planet as their children. And if they are in their image and after their likeness, then by way of our genetic agreement, that's part of our elevation story. Do you understand? So, we came here, but obviously we have various different types of ships. Leadership, you understand? And you came here to this planet by way of seamen, you understand, which is another type of ship, isn't it? You understand, which you made it to the through the chaotic waters, to make it to the egg. You understand? So we came here, by way of crafts, understood, as seamen, you understand, to make it, by way of that ship. To create the craft, obviously, which is the physical body. Do you understand? And actually, in some of the older Supreme Mathematic Scrolls, which you read about, Science of Healing and others, you read about the fact that the human body, or our version of the human body, or this skin suit, you understand, if properly instructed can be turned into a craft ship in and of its own self. You understand? One of the ways in which we're able to travel etherically. Any other questions? So that's a true peace ship.
Yeah, there was a second part to the question. Also, when they are praising Lord, does it relate to God government, as in House of Lords?
Yeah, what they so they don't know that, isn't it? They're you've been brain dirtied, but they've been brainwashed. So they are many. So the majority I'm talking about have forgotten. You understand? What their true origin or history really relates to. So they don't know. The fact of the matter is, the House of Lords creates the contradiction to the one God theory, insofar as that men can be lords, because you have a landlord, say House of Lords, etc., and then you have the Lord in their Bible, and they can be one and the same position. So men can be lords, as the same way that the Lord they're applying to this divinity, you understand, equally is a being with higher knowledge in the form of a humanoid. You understand? This is why Jacob was able to fight one of them, and the Lord or whatever broke his leg. You understand? Now my point is that Jacob, when he obviously by first look, wasn't that intimidated by him enough that he wasn't afraid to fight him. So he obviously was not of a level of physical appearance that Jacob was intimidated. He was only intimidated when he found out what his position was. So, and this is very similar to what can take place with the youth now. You think about things that happen on the street, or certain maybe criminal circumstance or whatever. They might not know person X is, you know what I mean, a bad man. So maybe you're in some kind of what do you call it, car rage incident. Someone cuts you up on the road. The two parties get out of the car. Maybe one's a 21-year-old face to you who's 6 foot whatever one, got something about him, or thinks he's got something about him, maybe because of his height or his size or certain things that he thinks he's done within his local area or whatever. He gets out, he sees somebody there, I don't know, he's 5'8" or whatever, standing in front of him. So he feels, well, he's 5'8", now I can take him. So they get into a fight, isn't it? Then whatever then he goes home and says, listen, I was dealing with this I had this altercation with this guy in the car. Maybe he gets the better of him, maybe he doesn't. Maybe the guy's 5'8", gets the better of him, but maybe he held his own. Do you understand? He goes back to his estate or whatever. He says, yeah, I got into this article, man. He had this with this guy. He was 5'8", and on his number plate it said my man, something like that, whatever. And they say, what, who? My man? You know who that was? Who you got into a fight with? He's such and such and such and such and such and such. Now the guy who's whatever, who was 6'1", now is filled with fear, because this guy is a heavy on the streets. He's got, you know, X, Y, Z. You know, he's got power behind him. He's got soldiers, whatever the case may be. Now, because he perceives that the person's got power, now he feels the fear. When he first saw the individual, he just saw him as a 5'8" man, because he was 6'1". He felt that he could take him. He got into a fight. So this is very similar to the type of situation that you're seeing here, which is why when you look at these Anunnaki, for example, this is why they wore masks, so that human beings of more simple mind back then. They didn't have no Netflix and Disney Plus and whatever else and sci-fi movies to look at. They're seeing, you know what I mean? They're much more simple minded. So of course, if you're seeing someone with a mask, for example, and it's a hawk's head, is it a hawk? You understand? Is it a man with a mask? You don't know about masks. You're thinking it's half man, half hawk. You know that hawks are powerful, so you're going to be intimidated by them. Understand? Whereas if you saw the real face of the person now, as I say, as an example I gave, you may not be so intimidated. So that human beings couldn't see that, human beings couldn't see that the Lord was Lord that looks exactly like you, but just happens to be more powerful. So it might cause human beings to feel that they could overthrow their own gods. They threw a lot of mystery around themselves in that regard to maintain the mystique, to maintain the power overstood, and to prevent them from being overthrown. Do you understand? So hence why they don't realize now that, yes, as you say, House of Lords is the same type of Lord as the Lord God in the Bible. You understand? Only difference is that in terms of terminology, they play the game in English with a capital, don't they? Play all capitals Lord, or capital L, small letters ORD. You understand? And then the Lord, the fake Lord, is LORD. You understand? But all in small letters. Whereas in the Hebrew language, there's no capitalization. Do you understand? In those Semitic languages, it's all, for lack of a better word, caps. It's all one case. You understand? So this is the games that they play, so that you won't realize it's the Wizard of Oz story. Remember the Wizard of Oz? Was hiding behind, and they kind of, the lion, the scarecrow, I don't know who else was in the story, but the Tin Man. When they got behind the veil to see who the wizard really was, because they remember in their mind they created all this power and what this person was responsible. So watch the Wizard of Oz, and then watch the prequel to the Wizard of Oz, and you kind of see the same kind of story play out, of what you're seeing in those entities. So no, they're not aware of who they're dealing with. And then the higher ones, maybe in the Euro Freemasonry, overstood their perception of certain things. They worship the devil, you understand, who they think was the being in Genesis chapter 3. The reason why I say they think, because the devil is more of a New Testament concept, but because in their view the serpent was able to challenge God, i.e. rebel against God, then they viewed him as equally as powerful. Do you understand? And so therefore they worship that serpent, but they don't know who the serpent really is. Do you understand? In terms of what the serpent represents. So who they worship is really the father of Cain, a being by the name of Nana, who is the same being in Isaiah chapter 14 verse 12, who is the same in Revelation chapter 22 verse 6. Nana, the master of fire. Do you understand? And that's really who their Lord is, or the God is that they really worship behind the scenes, who is the one on the craft ship returning back, as I say, or returned back to pick up his food. You understand? The 144,000. And I think there's a video on YouTube, actually, I think it's filmed about 2011, 2012, which shows that entity had visited back when the vortex was last opening, and then you see I think it's probably still there, but you see a light beam down in Jerusalem, where they think Jesus is returning back to. This is what a lot of this the fighting is going on between those two entities at the moment, is because it's a holy spot to both of them, where they feel, obviously in the Jews' case, Moses is returning back. Obviously in the Muslims' case, they do acknowledge it. They acknowledge, obviously, Jesus' return. They're really Christians. Muslims are really Christians in the form of Arabs, because it's the Catholic Church who created Islam. But they feel that an entity is returning back there. Do you understand? And obviously that prophecy was really fulfilled, because that is when Anar returned back. Obviously 2003, and then obviously back now when the last vortex or opened back up, he returned. So that's the God who they really worship, you understand, the master of fire, Nana, and that's why they worship fire as children of the amber light. That's why they call themselves Illuminati for the amber light of fire, not the true illuminated ones, which was us when we're dealing with the black light, not the amber light of fire. Symbolized obviously in the New York by the Statue of Liberty, which is the woman holding the torch in her hand. And obviously in the Olympics, what do? They run the torch, isn't it, of fire to encircle the planet, isn't it? They run with the torch or whatever for a certain mileage, but it's designed to encircle the planet to replicate, isn't it, where certain beings came from, as the planet Saturn, which, if they count, would be the sixth planet. But obviously, the sixth zone is because our ancestors count from the outside in. You understand? So Earth would be the sixth planet if you count from the outside in, as zone 6, understood? As opposed to if you go from the sun outwards, then Saturn becomes the sixth planet. And Saturn, as you see, Saturday, Satan or Satan, you understand, dealing with that number 6, understood? So a long-winded answer to your question is that they don't know, you understand? But the way things are set up, this is why it's showing those titles. There's no distinction other than the fact that one is more powerful, a group of extraterrestrials, and then you've got earthly representatives, and that's the only difference between the two. You understand? And actually, in the language, excuse me, in the Hebrew language, depending on how the words are used and how they're structured, it tells you which ones have, let's say, earthly based or have power on earth, and which ones have power of the heavens. So, and that's to do with the way in which they show the words in the Bible. So if you see Lord God, you understand, then they're from the heavens upwards, and then they have control. So heavens incarnating downwards. But when you see God Lord, for example, that means they've incarnated by way of the womb of a woman. Do you understand? Excuse me. Yeah, and so God Lord is shown as Elijah, or the term Elijah, which is Elohim Yahuwah, whereas Lord God is Yahuwah Elohim. So reversing them tells you how they came here. Do you understand? And so that's why, as I say, all of them at certain points might be called Lord. You understand? In the same way, all former presidents are called president. The current president and the former presidents are all called president. They look very different from each other. Do you understand? Could be good and bad, or, you understand, to you or to other people. So it's a similar type of thing. It's a name or title of the seat, as opposed to who the actual entity is who's sitting in the seat. Any other questions?
Yes, there is. There's another question from Manaza. Can you repeat the name of the peace ship for us? Can it be spelled in the chat?
No. Manjet of Ray. Any other questions?
No other questions.
Okay, well, at that point, I think I'm going to stop for today. So thank you everybody for attending. We are on the same time next week. So next Sunday it'll be the 19th, at 1 o'clock. So if you want to join us for that, let people who you think may be interested, send them the link or whatever, or get them to register. There's some useful information I'm sure that they can benefit from. So feel free to do that. Appreciate your support for today and the questions being asked and the interaction. Much appreciated. Take care for now, and so we will see you in 7 days' time to continue this very interesting topic. Peace to everybody. Take care. We'll see you soon.